Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another edition of Warhammer Weekly. And oh my goodness, but what is this? This is the official last Warhammer Weekly of AOS version 1. I'm joined as always by my co-host Tom, also moving into retirement soon. What's up, Tom?
Hello, friends.
I'm just kidding, by the way. Don't be scared. We'd never.
I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah, it's never happening, Tom. This is a lifetime contract you signed. I actually own your soul and body after you die. You still will have to host this show. So
My wife will not be excited about that.
I am going to sacrosanct chamber style come in there like an exorcist, suck your soul out and reprop you up. Use a little lightning geist. You'll still be delivering the hot news. But also joining us this week, it is Mr. Stormcast Strong himself. It's Chuck. What's up, buddy?
Hey, everybody.
You got nothing to be ashamed of showing those guns, brother. I saw that every day. Like, by the way, in case you don't know, you should be following Chuck. He started a little movement of Stormcast Strong for the next edition. And I love how many people have responded, man. People running, working out, getting healthy, and wargaming all at the same time. It's fantastic.
It almost motivates me.
Oh, almost. It's been actually overwhelming to see how many people have jumped on board and using it as their banner to rally behind. It's been fun past couple days, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes you just need that little nudge, right? That's what it is, and so I'm happy to see that happening. But we've got a lot of news today. You know, it's funny. When I was planning this show, I said, "What are we going to talk about?" It's like 3 days before the official release. We've gotten more or less all the leaks we're going to get. I mean, we got a little bit of stuff about the new Stormcast heroes and Nighthaunt heroes. But I was like, what are we going to talk about? There's nothing left. Like we have squeezed the juice from the AOS 2 berry. Let's look back. Let's do a calm, relaxed show. Let's do the clip show, right? The clip show look back at AOS 1. And then all of a sudden GW gave me the hold my beer. And today they dropped the FAQ and apparently the most controversial thing they have ever published, a base size chart. And the internet blew up. So I'm excited. Let's get into it, man. Tom, what do we got? Let's do some news, buddy. You can split this up however you want, son.
I don't even know.
It's up to you. We got to begin somewhere, Tom. It's the way you eat an elephant, man. One bite at a time. Let's go.
So there's a rumor engine.
There is a rumor engine, yeah. Would you like to look at it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at it.
It's clearly Grotz.
To two. We're going to share. All right. There you go. There it is. That is very zoomed in. And clearly, like the 3D print, right?
Yes. So it's Grotz. There's a similar thing on the Howdah for the Arachnarok hanging up in the webs.
Oh, neat.
So that's Grotz.
Moon Clan confirmed. Spider Goblins confirmed.
Well, yeah, like I don't know what world we're about to live in with Grotz. Because it makes me wonder if they might do a merging, like something we haven't seen before, merging Arachnarok, like the Spider Fang remnants with the Moon Clan.
Could be. I mean, look, all the rules are off. We should have learned that there's the second they did Legion of Night, right? And then went back to doing like chamber or, Coven style stuff and more of a normal book. Yep. We should have learned that there is no grid. They don't follow the grid. They're going to do any book in whatever way they feel is the most aesthetically, narratively relevant. So, could be. They could merge stuff, drop stuff, destroy stuff, add stuff. Anything's on the table, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in. So it's funny, somebody made a joke about, like, oh, it's Grotz, isn't it? And I'm like, no, it really is Grotz. They had, tagged me on Twitter. And the joke is because I always say Grotz. But the irony here is that I didn't used to always say Grotz.
Sure. They just put up a lot of things that looked like Grotz?
No, I used to always say elves.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, then we got a bunch of elves.
And then we got our of our elves. And so then I started saying Grotz. And guess what, folks? They're coming.
They're coming. Yeah, I mean, Chuck, you have a personal guess on this? Do you wish to deviate in any way? Do you think this is not goblins?
So first impression was also goblins, but then I thought, what if it's some kind of odd piece staff to like a Necromunda character we haven't seen yet, just to go completely off the wall?
Yeah, that would be the other weird option, right? That was the other thought to me. Like the dark horse in this race, I agree it's probably Grotz, but the dark horse, if they were trying to throw us, was that it's like a Bajangle on a Necromunda character, because this is really small, right? And so it could be a weird ganger piece that's like hanging off of somebody's, back or side or something.
Well, the only thing we can tell is its position, right? Because I think on the back right, there's something that looks like it's leather hanging down. So at least it's not inverted and upside down. So at least have an idea of where it could be located on a model.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. But I'm saying odds are Grotz, Dark Horse, Necromunda. I completely agree. It's funny you said that because that was literally what I was going to say too. So you stole my guess, Chuck. Stole my guess. All right. So, no, I mean, look, all the rumors have been saying that there's a release. We've got the Herald. It's coming. Like, we're going to get the Goblin thing. They're a big piece not touched yet. I don't know when that's happening, but like, good money's on some kind of goblins and some kind of Slaanesh in the next, let's say, 6 to 9 months. So there you go. Okay. Tom, what's next? What are next?
We have some new scrolls. The Ghost and Stormcast hero rules. We have the Stormcast and Nighthaunt spells. They're endless spells that are coming. We have literally a tornado of hammers,
which is pretty amazing looking. I'm not gonna lie.
Pretty hilarious. I don't say. Yeah, I mean, come on.
I'm going with amazing. I love Kane. I love Hammer Kane.
I like the comment. I'm a big fan of the comment. The comment looked nice.
My favorite one was the box of scary ghosts. Sure. That was my favorite one. Box of scary ghosts was the best.
Why not? We learned from Indiana Jones that those things are pretty scary.
Sure. Well, we ruined the old Ark of the Covenant. It's dead now, so we got to make a new one.
Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I liked all of them. So there's a couple interesting things that we should probably discuss, as Chuck here is
probably not
a herald of Sigmar, right?
I played them yesterday for the first time in a year, so yeah.
Sure, there you go. You're back in it. You got many games in before that. I'm glad to see where they're sucking you back in. I assume you're picking up the Sacrosanct and gonna get that done.
Absolutely, yeah. They're joining the ranks.
Okay. So we learned a couple interesting things for sure, both in that hero preview and then reconfirmed today in the rules FAQ. And we were pretty sure this was happening already, but now we know it's happening. So the Stormcast are all of the like mega battalions that represented the chambers got killed, right? They weren't in the point leaks. Yeah. So everybody had assumed, clearly rightly, that those were moving to a sort of coven, whatever type choice, right? Where when you pick your army, you pick your thing. Are you Celestial Vindicator, Hammers of Sigmar, blah, 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 whatever. Anvils of Heldenhammer, all the different names. Everybody assumed that was going to be a thing. The heroes that got published and then the FAQ today took it a step further, because what it actually showed is that not only do you legitimately pick that, okay, but that it adds the keyword to your army.
It becomes real.
It becomes real, which is how they got around the paint scheme thing. Because previously, and this was the big thing. Like, I've heard some people still talking about why paint would matter. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter at all. Because, whatever with the proxy thing. We'll touch on that later for the FAQ. But, clearly, if I have assigned the keywords, what the war scrolls that the characters care about, right? Like, the characters that only show up in the Hammers of Sigmar, the special people that can bonus
all of the name Stormcast heroes.
Yeah, especially focus on the two new ones, since their rules implications reference the keywords, right?
Right.
They specifically reference the keywords, not your paint scheme. Right? It doesn't matter if you're any color purple polka dotted Stormcast. Those heroes care about referencing models that have that keyword, and the keyword gets absorbed by making that choice. So they sidestepped the sort of paint issue in that regard by making the choice real, right? So I thought that was interesting. Tom, do you have something you want to say about this? About the heroes thing, since they're both Hammers of Sigmar people, which are the sort of standard, let's call them the stock cast, right? The gold with blue. Yeah. The guys.
All I will say is I'm disappointed.
You're disappointed because there are only Hammers of Sigmar special characters?
Yeah, they're only Hammers of Sigmar. Like, this would have been a great opportunity. So, like, they have demonstrated they're willing to take a stock model, right? Lord Celestin on Dracoth, and make a named character Vandus Hammerhand. So, like, like this model can, painted this way is Vandus. However else, he's just this generic hero. They could have, one can only assume that, like, for the named Toralon guy and the named whatever other guy for the new Chambers, like, there's named versions of those characters, and there's there's generic
there's generic
characters.
Yeah,
generic
both these heroes have generic and name versions. Yeah,
and so you would assume that, like, okay, they're more than willing to do this. Why haven't they released, like, a Celestial Vindicators, like, named Heraldor? Because that's their thing, right? Like, they have a bunch of, like, they blow horns and that's the charging one. I'm thinking about from the old Battle Tome, or a named, like, Lord Castellan Hallowed Knight, or a name. Like, all they would need to do is to trot out, like, a named scroll for these other heroes.
Sure.
And it would have literally cost them a little bit of development time on war.
Well, it adds regression time going forward, because then you have to rebalance the points on those guys forever. Like, you add a new special character scroll, you do add weight. It's not free forever. I'm not saying it's insurmountable, but it's weight.
I mean, they already have 700 million Stormcast scrolls, so like 2 to 3 more named heroes, not probably that big of a deal.
No, I can see how you definitely want them to add more. And the really nice part about what you're proposing, Tom, is that traditionally, when they've released additional Stormcast scrolls, everybody universally celebrates it. That's what's great about it, is that no one ever gets angry at all on the internet about more Stormcast stuff. They just, it's dancing in the streets.
They're already doing it, though, is the key. Like, they're already doing this. They're launching a book. They're publishing, like, the however manyth book. In this, I've been drinking. I don't know if you tell.
I can tell. That's fine.
Like, just add, like, a couple half pages for these named characters. Give the Hallowed Knights a shout out. Like, sure, they're only the faithful. They don't get any name characters, but, you're faithful. Go team.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's we'll let Chuck, the actual Stormcast player, weigh in a second.
Hey.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, I just finished some units.
Look, Mr. like 10 painted Stormcast. You're painting up for your kids. That doesn't count.
6.
I have a Stormcast army. It's right there and painted, okay?
That's not Stormcast. That's a Bretonnian army.
Well, they're Stormcast models. They happen to have Bretonnian heads. But anywho, they're certainly Stormcast rules. Either way, I don't care, because I don't want any of these special characters. I've never really liked them that much. I like one big special character. I like your Alariels, your Archaons, your Nagashs, people I can get behind. People with, like, narrative weight. People I care about, like, or love to hate or hate to love or whatever, Neferata and Manfred. Like, these are people that we've established story for. I don't want to see them just kick out these special characters just to make them, because I have no narrative investment in them. Like,
you don't have any narrative investment in the other new guys.
Correct. And that's why I don't like them either. That's what I'm saying. The last thing I want is more boring vanilla characters that are irrelevant.
Who is Gabriel Steelheart?
I don't know, and he doesn't matter. That's exactly my point. Sure. Yeah, that's my point is, I don't have a problem with special characters, but I like it when they evolve from a relevant thing that's happening, like, in the world. Build somebody up and then make a scroll for him. When Vandus' scroll showed up, I was like, yep, okay, this is Vandus. I know what he did. I'm invested in his story. I read about this dude. He's a sweet dude. He bashed some heads at this plane. He sent the first, bloodthirsters back to the Brass Citadel. This guy is a legend, right? Or whatever. Like, and that's just it. There are these special characters that exist out of the story. Like, Doom just linked a couple in the chat. But there's more. Like, there are cool dudes like that. The guy who's the redeemed Nurgle warrior who actually got redeemed and made a Stormcast, right?
Torglug.
Yeah, Torglug,
Yep.
who just like has basically he inherits a name from a battalion. I'd love to see that dude as a real special character with some neat rules, still kind of showing his Nurgle infusion. That's the kind of stuff I want to see.
One would hope.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna do them, that's the way I'd like to see them. I don't want to see them just crap scrolls for fairness sake. Like, oh, we should make some because we need some. That's the wrong way to make them.
No, like I agree. Like I don't know that they just need to do like a bunch of random name characters. But what my frustration is that they've literally designed 5 name characters and all of them have been hammers.
Hey, it's the main guys. I don't know what to tell you. All right, Chuck. What do you think, man? What did you think of the 2 new special characters out of the Stormcast? How did you think of them?
I mean, beautiful sculpts. I'm with you entirely. I would like to see characters developed and released. I want more special characters. I want, a Tarsus. I want Gardas. Because I think back to my High Elves where I have Corhill, Caradhrian, Alathanar, and reading entire books about their story and their background. And actually, during the end times, I became really attached to Corhill, which I didn't care about White Lions at all. I was all about Swordmasters, but all of a sudden, Corhill really got ingrained with me before he was axed. I really want more characters, but I'm like you. I want them in the right way. I want to have a reason to care about them and know what they're doing, what they did. Now, the one thing I will say with Stormcast, it might be hard if these characters are dying and there's still an issue with them dying. If personalities change drastically, would we have to see War Scrolls change drastically all the time to keep up with that lore?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question because some of these people, like, it's cool. Sometimes this can follow along, right? Like sometimes you can make the rules first and then the story follows, right? Like they introduce the character and then they put them into stuff and they can make them stick. Certainly that happened in the old world. Sometimes you would see characters show up basically in rules first, and then suddenly they would just kind of show up in the narrative of their own book or whatever. So it's not like it can't follow that way around. I just think you need to, if like the second you make a named character, there's a commitment there to it, right? Like I want to actually care that I have that person on the field. You know what I mean? Like know their story. If I've decided to put this real character from the world into my army, I should feel like I know who they are, right? Otherwise, I'd just rather use a generic dude and make him my guy, right? And make it my story. So, just my thought.
Do you think the fact that we haven't seen many named characters outside of Stormcast, which has a ton because they're immortal, because we keep having these big time jumps in the lore, hundreds of years, so we're not going to see the same human again, elves, are they immortal or are they not? Who knows? But you think if we see the timeline settle, might see more special characters spread out?
That's a good question. I don't know that we've had, a lot of the special characters we've seen are people who aren't too susceptible to the ravages of time, right? Like Slimex, dudes, he was like, what isn't in the backstory, Slimex is like the first plague bearer, right?
Yep.
And so that kind of person who's just like, whatever, he's, for all intents and purposes, he is as old as time. Or these death characters that like, we got the 3 death characters and like, they're not going anywhere. They're already dead. So, but yeah, like a named witch hunter, who knows? I don't know how fast they intend to jump around. We've clearly jumped a little bit here. My hope would be that we spend a reasonable amount of time within a time period, but don't feel bound to it. Right? Like what I mean by that is I wouldn't mind seeing 20, 30, 50, 100 year time jumps every so often. I'm not saying like once every 6 months, but like the old world got perennially locked at like basically a point in time. And I would love to see things actually get shaken up in fairly decent ways once every couple years. You know what I mean? And then at that point, who cares? Like, whatever, sure. Have a human named witch hunter and like, whatever. He's dead at the modern point in the story, but who cares? It's not relevant. Does it really matter? No, probably not. It's fine. If I can still put Lord Croak on the table, a mummy who is like 30,000-year-old frog mummy, I'm willing to accept that this guy somehow snuck through time. Like, it's cool, man. Just saying. So, once you open the door to 30,000-year-old frog mummies, all bets are off. I mean, that's that my mom always said that when I was young, so she was wise. She knew about frog mummies. All right, Tom, what's next? What are next? Oh, we should talk about the Nighthaunt heroes real quick. What'd you think of those guys, huh? Pretty cool. I like, obviously we had seen all the sculpts before. I think we basically just saw the newest guy, like the last one of the death heroes, Mr. like dead Pegastix type of thing. That dude's pretty sweet looking. I thought they were all cool. The big story with them is the introduction of the guy who has a chance to steal command points, right? So we've already cracked that. That seal is off, right? So he can, it's, you know, during when your opponent gains a command point during their hero phase, you roll a die on a 5-up, you steal their command point. So that's a thing. Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, you'll tend to steal like 1 or 2 in the average game. It's a pretty big shift.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that is the highlight. All the rest of them, like their abilities, the Mortarch of Grief is pretty crushing to people near her. Like, boy, kill her before you get close to her. Let me say that. She was miss mortal wounds when you get close up. But yeah, I thought, but the command point stealer was the big guy. That was he's going to show up a lot.
His lore is so fantastic too. He was about to be crowned king through underhanded dealings. Nagash struck him down and said, "You're still not a king, and here's 2 heralds just to mock you." Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I love that. It's such spite from Nagash.
Yeah, like what I find fascinating that like we're still evolving kind of the story of Nagash. He's actually become a much more interesting dude recently.
He has a sense of humor.
Yeah, that when he started like crafting personalized punishments. Like he's this extremely powerful god. And like all these individual people are dying. These individual like down to the chain rasps, right? And he's taken time out of his day.
Yeah, it's all the time in the world
to be like, all right, what's gonna be really ironically perfect for this dude? Like he cracks on his Alanis Morissette tape, and yes, he uses tape. You can't see the hipster mustache under that helmet he's wearing, but it's there. And he puts on his tapes. And he figures out the most ironic punishment, and that's how he does it. I love it. That dude just got way more interesting.
See, what I'm kind of curious about is because with the Knight of Shrouds and with the story of that fake king, Nagash is doing what Sigmar did. He's not just letting the souls die and come to him anymore. He's actively going out and stealing the souls and taking the souls. So does that mean we're going to see Ilariel get super pissed next and go, "You're stealing life? Life is mine"?
One could only hope.
I mean, anything's possible. I just hope everybody keeps getting up in each other's stuff. Like, yeah, like more of this strange backbiting, this type of stuff. So I'm down for it.
It's refreshing that unlike the old world and 40K where we're always sitting like the 2 seconds to midnight where it's always chaos is about to win. Now it's always 2 seconds to midnight, but to what? This time it's to the Necroquake and what Nagash did. So anybody can cause anything to happen, whether they're order or chaos, I feel, and it could make big apocalyptic events like the end times happen to give us a new setting going forward whenever we do make these time jumps, supposedly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I love death as the new sort of big bad. Like, they've pushed chaos to the side and like, no, death is in the house now. Yeah. Because just that simple paradigm gets old after a while. If you got 4 parties, then let's make it really 4 parties, right? So that's good. Like, and I don't. 40K is an interesting other example because of the sort of triangle with like Chaos and the Imperium and the Xenos and how that all balances. But yes, I'm glad to see that. Certainly, the old world was mainly about the story of Order versus Chaos, right? So I'm happy to see that. All right, Tom, what's next, man? We got more. So that was I thought the ghost dudes are cool. Command points, the big thing. There you go. Wrapped up. We'll talk about their scrolls when we do individual review shows on these armies.
So GW just kind of haphazardly was like, "Oh, by the way, here you go." And the first thing that they did was they released like an FAQ, like the public announcement on the community page was to like the update in the core rules. like the AOS 2 core rules, like the FAQ to that. And then in the comments of that article, they're like, oh, yeah, we updated the FAQs and all that other stuff. But they didn't link it. And when you went to the FAQ page, you realize that all 30 FAQs have been updated.
Yeah, it's a big one. I clicked through to that page just accidentally today. Like I was trying to get it to load and it wouldn't load. And then finally it did because I assumed they were reloading all the rules up or whatever. They had taken it offline and it reloaded. And I was like, oh, dear God, what has happened? Because, yes, everything except for like the Shadespire, the Silver Tower, and the pitch battle profiles was updated. That's it.
All of it.
Yeah. Now, a lot of it. So I went through and parsed all this out. Okay. You want to start working our way through this? We gotta do this?
Sure.
All right.
Do this.
FAQ breakdown. Here we go. I didn't spend 2 hours of my day parsing all this apart, not to talk it through in detail.
So we can summarize this in about 6 minutes.
Or we can deep dive for like the next hour. You know, whatever we do, we'll see what happens.
No,
see what happens.
Deep dive. No, that's fine.
All right. Chuck, are you ready, man? You ready to talk about some of this stuff? Did you get a chance to look at any of this?
I have seen some of it, but a lot of it will probably be a surprise as we go.
Well, great. We'll get real reaction shots then. Okay. Let's start at the beginning. FAQ, core updates, confirmed, officially, load drops, decides the first turn. As we all
knew this.
As we said, as the video said, dude, I still saw this discussion. Okay? It's in there now. Can we stop talking about it? That's done. Next item. Clarified that the War Scroll rules now override the core rules since the core rules now have basically the rules of one in them.
Yeah.
So their example is like Croak can multicast and he can do that. Like, cause it says he can use his like pew light thing, you know, whatever that's called. He can go bow frog power. He can do that multiple times a turn. So he can do that multiple times a turn now. He is not limited by the rule of one on that. Are you excited for Croak bombing? Chuck? You excited to see Croak being able to bomb again? He doesn't have his Balewind anymore, but he's
not on the Balewind, so
he does. He does.
No, he doesn't have his old Balewind to double.
Right. But it adds 6 inches, which it was previously 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's instead of doubling, it's 50% increase.
Sure.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
I'll just make sure I keep some heroes within 30 inches to dispel.
There you go.
That's all I'm going to do.
Good call.
He's like, nope.
Shutting off that. Stop it. Stop it, Frog.
Is that he can just keep going. That's the problem here.
4 times. It's ironic that he can now do it in a world where he probably won't cast any spells anymore at all. Because he'll just dump 12 points into summoning and then just start pulling units out. Like, suddenly he can quadruple cast or whatever he does. I think he's a quadcaster, right? He has a quadcaster.
Yeah.
He'll probably never quadcast. He'll like cast it once and dump 9 summoning points or whatever.
Well, I mean, I would anticipate it to him going up on a Balewind and then them summoning like a time turner next to him. So he goes up to like 6 spells around.
Sure. Seems legit. I'm down for 18 summoning points around with Croak. Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the limit on this, by the way, is still that they also clarified that like attacks, things like that generate extra hits on a number aren't themselves recursive. They did still clarify that. So things like the Ripper Dipper Doos still don't explode forever, right? They're still a one and done. Or Daemonettes or whatever, any of that stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Other elements, they confirmed that range still are... Well, no, let me say that. Let me actually go to the one that matters.
Yeah, here you go.
They confirmed that the battalions, they've changed how battalions work. And what this means now is that if you have a battalion, like all battalions have an allegiance, okay? So let's take Plague Touched Warband as an example. Plague Touched Warband is an ever-chosen allegiance. And if you're in an ever-chosen army, then everything's fine. If you're not in an ever-chosen army... well, let me say it this way. If you're an ever-chosen army and the units that are in your force do not have the ever-chosen keyword, those things still count as allies, but they don't count against your total. And so, like, you can't use any of the battle line statuses of, like, Chaos Warriors. So, like, to play an Everchosen army, you always have to have 3 units of Varangard in a 2,000-point game, period. There's no way around that now. So that's the flip side of 1 is that, like, things in there count as allies, and we knew that. The inverse of that, though, hadn't been confirmed, which is essentially those battalions count as that allegiance, and those battalions, and now everything in them count as that allegiance in your list. What this means...
Yeah, I'm not sure you could have explained that in a worse way, but...
Awesome.
But do you mind? I agree. I want to
Go
get
ahead.
your implication, but do you mind if I try to re-summarize real quick?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. For the battalions that are marked as part of your allegiance, like, say, the Sylvaneth one that allows some Stormcast. It's a Sylvaneth battalion, and you take it in your Sylvaneth army, and it lets you have some Stormcast. Or the Idoneth one that lets you have some Tree People, right? It's an Idoneth battalion. They confirmed that those other people who join up with you don't count as allies. However...
They are allies. They are allies. They don't count against you.
Oh, sure. That's fine. Yes, they don't count against your
Because
total.
if they
I'm
were
sorry.
generic battle line, previously you could have counted them, and now you
You're
can't.
absolutely right. I said that the wrong way. They do not count against your ally total. Yes, you may exceed your limit, both number and points, which, by the way, they also confirmed that the number thing is real. The 1 out of 4. Pitched battle match play rules use both restrictions. The
Good.
1 for 4 and the points. Anywho.
Why not?
These ignore that. So when you're doing your alliance of sea and tree or whatever the hell that one is, you can just have all your tree people in there and it's fine. They're not blowing your allies' points up or anything like that. However, if you get a battalion, say you're a Nurgle army and you want to take Plague Touched, for example, which is actually an Everchosen battalion because that's how it's labeled. If your battalion is from outside of your faction, then it and everything in it is an ally. Now, Tom, keep going and counts toward it.
So the consequence of that is, for example, Nurgle, even though everything in a Plague Touch Warband has to have the Nurgle keyword, if you're in the Nurgle Allegiance, none of that counts for your army. All of that counts for allies. Which means now you can't be Nurgle with the Everchosen battalion. It's not gonna happen. It's just not possible. Because technically all that will count against your 1 and 4 as well ratio. So you just can't use those anymore in... so Fate Sworn can't be used for Tzeentch anymore. The Plague Touch can't be used. Pleasure Bound can't be used for Slaanesh. So basically they killed all of those.
All the Everchosen battalions are dead outside of the Grand Alliance. That's
right,
it.
and then mathematically, you can't even use them in Everchosen armies anymore because they couldn't
fit points-wise.
They don't fit, and you can't have the ratio right.
Correct.
So you have to have the 1-to-4 ratio, so you can never actually use those in an Everchosen army unless it's like a 10,000-point army.
Sure, that's a fair point. Look, you play that 10,000-point game, it's back on the menu. That's all I'm saying.
Right, but you have to have 4 units of Varangard for every 1 non-Varangard unit.
Okay, we can get there at 10,000 points, buddy. We can do it.
Sure. Yeah, so they just shot those 2 battalions in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like how you don't even count the Pleasure Bound when you're like the only battalion that Slaanesh had. You're playing the world's tiniest violin for one of the most hated battalions in history. Plague Touched. Slaanesh is over here like, we had one, and you took it from us. No, now we have 0. And you're like, oh, in my plethora of choices, my abundance, I don't like the other ones. I didn't like those other choices that I had. I eschew those. This is the one I enjoyed.
Stop. Nurgle had 2 viable mortal battalions. Now they have 1.
Okay.
And Tzeentch had 0 viable mortal battalions. Or they had 1 with Fate Sworn. Now they have 0.
Hey, I'm just saying. At least you had 1. The worst case is you're back down with us, buddy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Tzeentch mortals.
Tzeentch still has a lot of like They have Arcanite stuff still on the table.
But those aren't viable. Have you looked at the numbers?
You have things you can take. I have 0 things I can take, good or bad. Anyways, we're not talking about that.
That's not true. You can take the Slaves to Darkness, the Slaanesh stuff.
No, you can't, because it's a Slaves to Darkness battalion. The same rules apply. It would pull it. That's literally exactly what we just talked about. That I can't do that.
Okay, sorry. It just broke everything. Like
I'm just
all
enjoying
of the interesting battalions. It broke is what just happened.
For Chuck. Chuck, what do you think about it? Did this impact your life in any way, shape, or form?
No, but I'm enjoying listening to Tom talk about how he had chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry ice cream, and they just took strawberry away. And Vince, you're like, I don't get ice cream. I get a bowl and a spoon, and maybe a glass of water.
Right, and they're like, eat up. There's nothing here. Yes, that is exactly correct. Thank you, Chuck. That is exactly correct. Yeah. So, I mean, those are gone. Okay, so that happened. I mean, I don't know that people are going to greatly mourn. Tom's got to get more booze. Okay, we haven't even gotten to the other stuff yet. Well, I don't think anybody's mourning Plague Touched. I'm sad to see Fatesworn go. I did.
I hate you. Okay.
I'm just saying.
I'm not the only one mourning Plague Touched. The chat blew up today.
I'm sure WhatsApp. The 7 of you who loved it, you 7 horrible human beings. No, I don't know who you are. It's fine. It sucks to lose a thing you had. The funny part about them is that they are just
like it was my thing. Like that's what's so sad. Like
hey,
it was my baby.
You discovered it early, and you got to be there first, Tom. You got more use out of it than most. Isn't that nice?
But it's gone now.
As the wheel of time turns, my friend. All right, so let's keep moving because this isn't battalion talk about the ever-chosen battalion.
That's all that matters here. No, you're right. It's not. Let's talk about some KO. No,
hold on, we're not there yet. Slow your roll, my friend. We gotta wait. We can't just jump into KO. Oh my goodness. All right.
I don't want to eat in. I want to dive in.
You need to. You have to drink a lot more before we get to KO. All right. The other clarification was on range. So talking about how range works, and this had a nice clarification because this was asked. So like things that add +6 inches. If you have a spell that's like any point, you pick a point within 18, you pick that point, and then everything within 3 is affected. There were people, Gary, who were arguing that the 3 would be extended by that range buff as well, right? Okay. They officially clarified that that's not the case.
Yeah, I love how they created this new category of area of effect, but it only takes effect if you pick a point on the battlefield. If it's an area of effect based on the point of battlefield being your feet or your model, that doesn't count.
Right.
That's still range.
That's easy. Yeah, your range.
It's so ridiculous.
Dude, I played MMOs. PB AoEs get the bonus. AoEs don't, son. That's easy. We all know the difference between a PB AoE and an AoE.
AoEs do get the bonus. No, they don't.
They don't.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah.
Chuck, any thoughts on this one? Another fairly massive change. No, I mean, this is just good clarification, but
yeah, very good clarification.
Obviously, I think the impact for, not that I can think of any way that existed to bonus it, but the most common time you come into this distinction is what, like your poots, right? All your dragon poots.
The Dracoth lightning breath?
Yeah, your dragon poots. That's what they're called, right? That's the rule name on the lore scroll. Yeah, dragon poots.
Yeah, it's the official word, yeah.
When they poot lightning. That's what they do, right? All right. So next up, we had order. So a lot of the concern, I think, beforehand that got discussed was about what's going to happen with some of these command abilities and the ability to stack them, right? Because we know you can activate one hero multiple times. So can't I just take a single unit and juice the bejeezers out of them, right? And the answer...
They largely said no.
And they largely said no. Not completely. They fixed it the other way around, strangely, which was by saying, like, so for example, the free guild general guy on horse or whatever, a single unit can't benefit from more than one instance of this ability, and so on and so on and so on, right? That shows up all over Order. So that and this like non-stacking thing happened quite a lot. All the bonuses of extra attacks or whatever shooting bonus you got whenever X models in the unit are present have to have no enemies within 3 inches. This is like the Iron Drakes, Crossbowmen, and Quarrelers, that kind of stuff. But that was the only thing that they had. Like, that's the full replacement text. So I think they lost a restriction but gained one. I don't remember off the top of my head. Do you remember this one, Tom? You knew.
I don't.
You knew old Iron Drakes, right?
Not really.
All these...
They weren't wherever worth their points, so no.
Gotcha. Good answer, Tom. Yeah, but the answer is now... You're hilarious. The answer is for a lot of these shooting units, they all now reference the, like, you know, no enemy within 3 inches and all of that. I'm bringing up the Blaze Away. So it's switched to, like, Iron Drakes can... The previous one was Iron Drakes can shoot twice with their Drake guns if they did not move in their preceding movement phase and there are no enemy models within 3 inches. That is no longer the rule, right? So now, instead, because I guess they still had the 3 inches thing, I didn't go through and compare all these. Now it's, you can add 1 to the attacks characteristic if they have at least 10 models and are more than 3 inches away. So they went to like number and 3 inches instead of the movement thing. There you go.
Right.
That was the
because
switch.
they realized that those units are never going to get anywhere on the battlefield, like ever, because they already only move 4.
Pinning them to the ground wasn't really a relevant negative. Yeah. No, that's good. So they got rid of the movement restriction on like crossbowmen and all that, but then put in like a model count number. 10 for those guys. I think it's 20 for the crossbowmen. Yeah. And 20 for the Quarrelers. Yep. Then we come to the one I think Tom's probably the most sad about. Longbeards don't activate command abilities anymore. They just make your heroes count as your general for distance.
That doesn't bother me.
Okay, cool.
I wasn't using any because the problem is that was awesome back when we had all the named dwarf war scrolls from the compendium.
Right.
Because there was a bunch of command abilities you cared about. Now it's just Warden Kings. Like, that's it. That's all you get is Warden Kings for that whole army.
Who also can't stack.
Who now can't stack. So it's like, okay, cool.
Right. So they can grumble, but it just makes everybody around them count as a general for distance.
No, what that means, writing that ability simply means this. All Longbeards now reroll 1s to wound. That's the other ability you're going to choose.
Sure. You're saying they're not picking the 6 to run very often?
No, it's not 6 to run. It's a negate battle shock on a 5 or a 6.
No. I was talking about it's for their general command abilities. They count as the general for command abilities, so they could the generic ones would work too. Is my point.
Right, but nah.
All right, Flame Phoenix. Once
okay, wait.
battle.
Oh, hold on, stop. Do you really think that a dispossessed hero is going to be more than 12 inches away from their unit?
It seems highly unlikely.
All with only a 4 movement, like across the army.
I don't even know how they got that far apart.
Did they set up that far apart? Because that's the only way they're getting that kind of gap.
Banishment, I assume. That's probably what happened.
Exactly. Banishment. The only way they move across the battlefield. Can I banish my own troops? That's the question.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I saw the dispossessed allegiance abilities today, and they're looking pretty hot. But that's a separate topic. Flame Phoenix once per battle resurrection, and then this finally got addressed. Assassins can't Matryoshka anymore. You can't assassin in an assassin in an assassin in an assassin.
It was so fun when you could, though.
Sorry, Christian.
I am full of tinier men.
GW clearly likes to ruin your fun too.
Sure. So yes, they all have to be like set up separately and apart now, and there's distance restrictions and stuff like that. You can still have multiple assassins; they just can't all pop up together out of the same guy. So, which I thought was funny. Okay. Here's some fun ones for Khorne. The Blood Tithe. Khorne has lots of ways to cheat command points. The Blood Tithe ability that lets you utilize a command ability does so without expending command points. The Council of Blood ability lets each
Oh.
Bloodthirster use their command abilities once per phase without expending command points. And then
They
there's
get
another.
true free command abilities.
Yeah.
Like unlike the Archeon one, where like you spend a point and everybody gets to spend it. These are just straight free from Council of Blood.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one like the Charnel. What's the other one called? The Charnel host or whatever that's ruled
Yep.
by a
Mhm.
Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury.
Yep.
That one's the same way. He can do his for free. They clarified that if you roll a 1 on a demon unit's battle shock, you just get the demons back and nothing flees. Like they added the and nothing flees. That was how I always understood it to be working, but I understand there was some, difference of opinion on that.
Yep.
So now you just get the demons back. The Lord of Corn on Jug can't. He got the no stacky rule. He was the wound buffer that let Archaon run around and start Slayer of Kingsing people on like a 3-up.
Sorry, Darren. They're on to you.
No more 3-up Slayer of Kingsing people. So at least not off of stacking that guy. And no multi-blood stokering units. You can't super stoke. You can only single stoke. It's a single stoke situation. You cannot multi-stoke. So there you go. Which I know I've played against people who multi-stoked, so that was interesting. All right. Any commentary, Chuck? Any feelings on any of the Khorne ones? That Council of Blood, like it only went up like 40 points.
Ever since a year and a half ago, I've been in love with Khorne. I built and painted a Khorne army. I love it. I just wish I wasn't terrible with it because all this sounds great. But
I don't know that you're the one. That's the problem there. That relationship.
No, I don't know, man. Being bad at an army is no reason to stop playing, and I'm living testament to that. Come on now.
I just want to go forward and kill things. So that's why I play Daughters now. Khorne makes me strategize and think. I don't like that. That's too hard.
No, that's fair. And you are like one of the few people I've seen who did the work. Aren't you working on like another 30 witches to bring yourself to 150?
Yeah, well, I've seen Tom and Relian mention about 120. I'm like, no, this is a competition. I'm going to win. I will never beat either of you on a table. I will most likely not beat either of you in a painting competition, but I will have more witch elves than all of you.
No, you got it. Look, you pick your battles, man. That's the way to go. I like it.
Be careful. Awesome. I like competition.
That's I can't wait to see you both drop like house payments into these witch elves. It's pretty great. Okay. Nurgle, like almost all the commanders who have command abilities of note got the no unit can benefit more than once. Yep. They clarified that Rodigus can't stack on the same units if he gets multiple things out of his Reign of Filth or whatever it's called.
Right.
And this was an interesting one. They clarified that Gut Rot plus his unit are a single setup.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a neat little -1 to your things.
He ruined Smiters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you ruined Smiters. Mm-hmm. They answered that. I thought that was kind of. I mean, it's not moving your drops a huge amount, but kind of neat.
Helps.
Okay. Well, that brings us to KO. Nothing really of note there, so we can probably just breeze by that one. It was really basically empty. No,
you've never been more right, Vince.
Let me say, some of these, the most common thing printed in this FAQ was like page X to Y, no longer use these rules, use the rules in the battle tome, right? So it was just cleaning up old scrolls and stuff like that. That was the most common thing across all this text. But what we're trying to pull here is the notable exceptions. Tom, do you need me to cover this? Is the cut still too fresh? Or can you talk about the two big changes that are relevant?
No, I got it.
Okay,
I got it. So the first of those is that now KO, when you disembark from frigates and ironclads, which is all disembarking, it has to be at the start of the hero phase. For those of you that don't know, what this does is that the traditional Zilfin list, if they were going to alpha strike, they had two different options. They could drop 9 inches off your line or 12 inches off their line, pile out people 9 inches out. Okay, that was one way, but that was kind of the rookie way to do it. the finesse way, the way that like Gary won most of his games with, was he sets everything up on the line and then like pops some stuff out and then does the free Zilfin move to midfield and then pops out all of the riggers and everything out midfield. And then they all get their normal move in the movement and then they zip line and charge. And so you got a lot more movement out of that like Zilfin move than disembark. And now you can't do that.
Right, so, because it's clear it's tagged specifically to at the start of your hero phase.
Right. So if you are going to disembark, you disembark at the start of your hero phase. The airdrop Aetherspheric Engines also happens at the beginning of the hero phase. So technically you can still airdrop out off their line and then spit everything out. So that's the only way to do it.
Okay. So that one still works because they also did clarify that like that's still in there of like if there are multiple abilities that happen at the same time, player with priority chooses. So you could still trigger both of those back to back.
Yep. So that's the first one. The next one, and this is the deeper cut, is so Endrin riggers had two things changed to their grapple hooks. The first is that their grapple hooks no longer function at all if there's an enemy unit within 3 inches. So that resolves the issue of them grappling out of combat, like zipping out of combat, which at Holy Wars last year, I found myself asking Relian, how does this work? And he's like, I don't know. So yeah, it's not like none of us knew how that worked with setup and move and all that stuff. And this clarifies that. So it doesn't. Yeah, which is good. I mean, it's good to have very clear clarity of like, is this considered a retreat because it's a shooting phase, and can they then charge, and all of that just resolved. So a lot of us who are, I would say, adept at the rules had no idea how it functioned and what it would count as. And so that's a nice clean clarification. The clarification that wasn't clear that was the one that wasn't clear. The one that was an interesting addition is that now when they zip line, during the movement of their zip line, they can't ever move at any point in the movement within 3 inches of an enemy unit. So it's still a direct line zip line, but as soon as they hit within 3 inches of an enemy unit, they stop. And so like they can't zip line over enemy units now, even though they're flying, it doesn't matter. So they can't zip line over enemy units. They can't zip line into the backfield. They can't do any of that. They have to have so it really neutered their ability to use their zip line. Yeah.
So there you go. That's
most of the KO in the WhatsApp chat when this dropped. Everybody was like, "Well, good night, folks." There was almost not a single person that was like, okay, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna come up with a new list. Most were like, well, that's it, so who's gonna turn out the lights?
Yeah, they're setting up hanging the shutter, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, like the army in the new meta with all of the changes was already on thin ice. To take a hit like this, there's just no reason to do a KO army and not do like a mixed order instead. Like KO offers us nothing at this point. So yeah.
I can tell this is going to be there's going to be discussion around this, and I'm sure. I think what we can all hope for, regardless of whether you agree with Tom's perspective on this or not, what I would like to see, I think what most KO players would like to see, is that at some point in let's say 2019, to be reasonable, we see a re-release of this book, right? And we see additional units or something. Like, I would like to see that. I think it's an army with an immense amount of potential. It's got one of the coolest aesthetics in the game. There are interesting units in it, and there are interesting ideas at play here. Like, it has a solid core. It just didn't awesome ideation, rough implementation, right? And time and time again, it's had rough implementation. So what I would like to it's okay. It was the first big swing at this kind of concept, at this totally new and very different thing in AOS. And it missed its mark. And we've consistently seen, adjustments and changes to that to get it refined. I think we take it back to formula, right? And re-release. You don't get rid of anything, obviously. Use all the tools you have there.
Yeah.
And do something really great with it.
the unfortunate thing about this is that like Elric had a great exchange that I'm not going to go through now, but it's like, imagine a new KO player rolling up to the table with a book, and like rule after rule after rule is simply not right in the book anymore.
Sure.
Like, and there's no, like, chemists don't work the same. The zip line doesn't work as read. Thunderers don't work as read in the book. The moving in the hero phase doesn't, like the Zilfin move or the deployment doesn't work the same anymore. The drill cannons and all that stuff isn't 3 damage anymore. Like, so you can't actually roll up with this book and play by the book because so much of the core synergy information is just simply wrong now. You have to have the FAQ printed out in front of you.
Well, and that leads to a question that I had and that I still don't have a solid answer for, which is where there are cogent rules changes, are these going to flow through to the War Scrolls? And I don't know.
I hope so. Man, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I certainly hope the answer is yes. We'll see. All right.
But hey, Gunhauler went down in points.
It did. Cheap gun haulers, man. There you go.
Well, I think KO right now, though, you guys have every reason to be upset, and but don't use it as a chance to be upset. Just use it as your time to email, reach out to game. Well, no, keep your armies. Don't go selling them. Like I think it's inevitable. They have to be redone now. Just continue to ask for it and ask for it and ask for it and ask for it, but don't sell off en masse. Leave. Sure, you're not going to play them right now, but you have the perfect excuse to bug GW and say, we need an army that's playable at a competitive level, even on low tier tables. Because right now it's not. So I would say keep positive, but keep positive and keep asking for what you guys actually need, which is a book that gives you a competitive level of play.
4 up, 3 up cannon shots for 160 points ain't gonna cut it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, you're gonna catch more. To second with what you just said, you're gonna catch a lot more flies with honey than vinegar. That's all I'm saying. Like sometimes you just gotta be the squeaky wheel. Look, it took us 20 years, but we got our plastic sisters, man. So, you got a while to go, buddy.
Doom, thank you. I'm for those of you that don't know, I've been getting calls from all of my friends in the internets to burn my army. And that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, that would be madness, complete and total madness. Because the outside, the down, what would happen there is 6, 9, 12 months, 18 months, whatever the time frame is, when they get re-released and suddenly get really good, too good again, because that's how this pendulum swings. You're going to be like, oh no, what did I do with my life? And, I can't wait for that. So,
and you have to repaint all those rivets again.
2,772 rivets or whatever again.
And Vince gets to hear about it again.
Yeah.
Please it's 2727.
He's still numbers.
I was close. All right.
You were really close.
Let's see. Chaos. Let's keep moving. Clarified you can't use the Skyer Sparks on non-attacks like the Warp Lightning Cannon and Warp Flamethrowers. I mean, that was more or less understood by the rules. Like the words that were printed on the page said that, but it's good that they also clarified it because not everybody reads the words that are printed on the page. Death. Clarity on the wording of the return command ability. So this was an interesting one. I'm talking about, right? The command point for death. It's like, hey, your general, you can be like, boom, unit come back. Yeah.
Yep.
Summonable unit come back. They moved it to the end of the movement phase when it triggers. So it's definitely past when you're allowed to move. Okay. So that unit, when you stand them up, they can't then move. That was the question before. Because like you could res them, move them still, and so on. But nope, you can't.
Of course you could.
Yeah, I mean, no movie. They cleaned up the wording on the allocation of redirect wounds for like Nagash and the Necromancer. Nagash to his Morghasts in that first cohort
to prevent bouncing of wounds.
Right, exactly. It was actually like really nice, clean wording because we'll see this again. Like this sort of like wound allocation thing isn't going away anytime soon. Like there will be other instances of that. So I was happy to see that, like really, really clean, sharp wording around that was good. Curse of Years got a little bit of a nerf because it's now about the wounds that get through, right? So if you throw a Curse of Years at somebody and get like 2 6s and they happen to have a mortal wound save and save both of them, spell stops. They save one of them, you get to roll 1 die. Because it's actually about the allocated wounds, not just getting the dice to go to that place.
Oh, poor Arkin.
I mean, you know, getting like an infinite curse off was fairly difficultly tough already, but hey, there you go. And they clarified that the grave sites are cumulative and shared. Again, as I think most people understood, but there you go. Tzeentch. The Ogroid only sets up brimstone horrors now. Not, I think he used to make pinkies. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I already had a list that this was that Tzeentch summoning list. Like, there's still some exploits hidden in there.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like, though there's still.
I don't see this as a backbreaker to the list. I mean, it's fine.
No. My eternal spell engine still works.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They clarified the Curseling can cancel and recast endless spells, which I was like, all right, that's pretty awesome. Got your cogs.
I like that.
Magical supremacy is now 12 additional inches.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that he can unbind at 42 inches. And that 42-inch unbind, when he succeeds, he can then immediately recast that spell.
Yeah. Wasn't that guy in the list as well, Tom? I feel like he might have been.
He might have been my general.
Yeah.
That may be there with a 42-inch unbind.
Yeah, stealing other people's endless spells is pretty good. Pretty good. That's good stuff. And then they also clarified that you can't use Destiny dice on a reroll because obviously you have to choose to use the Destiny dice before the roll, and the reroll still counts as the same dice roll. So cool. Chuck, any thoughts on any of this crap?
I really like that change to the Curseling because now it's even more of a mind game that he's on the board. Do I even try to cast my endless spell knowing that you're probably going to use it against me? Because if I'm not Tzeentch, you're probably going to cast it much better than I am.
I think it's also like you try to Balewind.
He's not named.
Balewind and puts himself up on your Balewind. No, he's a generic caster.
Oh, he's not named. Oh.
No. He's a 160-point double caster. To be clear.
He's not Villic anymore. Villic or whatever his name was. Like he's
right.
I thought he was still named.
You could run like 3 of him with 6 unbinds that can all flip the spell back on him.
It is pretty awesome that, like I said, like stealing the Balewind is the funniest one to me. Because he's like, whoop, now I'm even better.
Well,
and you can use... Oh, wait a minute. Do you then steal their model too? Because when you include it in your army...
Do you have to use their model, or do you have to bring all the endless spells all the time?
No, I think you take their model because it's you're casting their spell.
Right, so you can have technically 2 Balewinds then, if you have Balewind in your list.
And you've stolen their Balewind.
So you better have 5 Balewinds as a Tzeentch player. Just 5 of every endless spell. Just in case.
Because there's you can have one and they can have one.
2.
Okay, 2 of each, yeah.
You'll use yours and then you'll take whatever they have.
I'll need to go look at the endless spells to see if anything in the rules would potentially address this situation, like in that rule pack. Because obviously it limits kind of who is it about controlling or casting or whatever. Like I don't know where the limitation happens of 1 per side. But
and if you really want, you can use your Tzeentch dice to unbind those spells.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely steal it if you need to. Yeah, I dig that. That's awesome.
That's pretty good.
All right, so. Your stock is rising, Village, or whatever your name is now. Okay. Let's see. Iron Jaws. Some interesting stuff here. Gordrak's ability got 4 inches farther, but then became wholly within. Which, okay. Who cares? Like,
you're going to hit the battalion anyways, and that's all that. Yeah.
Exactly. If you're using Gordrak, you better have some kind of battalion that's going to make it cascade. So, whatever. Like, that's irrelevant. You should be able to pick a unit that's wholly within 2 feet of his 160 mil round base, which is like most of the table. Like, if you can't find 3 pigs in a battalion in that radius, how are you playing? What has happened in your game?
Banish.
Yeah, clearly, yes. Banishment is always the answer. Piggy charge got better. Piggy charge, you just have to be 8 inches or more away now, and then be successful in the charge. So it used to be that you had to be 8 or more inches away and like hard roll an 8 or more.
You had to move 8 or more, right?
You had to move 8 and roll 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you just have to be 8 and roll a total of 8, not on the hard dice. So, like, if you've got +4 to charge, you roll a 4 and move 8 inches, you still get it. Right. To get the D3. So that's cool. Ardfist, the infinite Ardfist engine got broken a little in that you can only activate the Ardfist ability to resummon all your boys on once per game, but it is all your boys.
Oh.
It's only once per game, but it's all your boys, which, Tom, I think makes our Ardfist list still just as good. Even better, maybe. Well, not better, but still just as good.
You're saying it's going to bring back the 30, like once you've blown up that 30.
No, I'm saying the way we constructed the list, it was 50 suicide orcs.
Yeah.
Okay. Who then like go throw themselves at the enemy top of 1, kill everything they can, die, and then walk back on the board. You realistically weren't going to do it again anyways. Right? So it's really just like you kill everything they can with your suicide boys, and then you reset up your army. Then you re-rack in turn 2. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's fun. I would probably do it as like 5/10s instead of big, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. That's not what we're here to talk about. Ardboy shields don't work against mortal wounds. Finally clarified that. When they said just wounds, they meant it.
Did they clarify the necromancer that says just wounds?
I didn't look. I'd have to. They may have, but I didn't catch it.
Because the necromancer says just wounds as well, which would suggest that they can't shake off mortals in as well.
I'll take a look. I'll take a look once we're done with it. Why don't you take something? Why don't you talk about Fire Slayers while I go look that up, Tom?
Oh.
You do something in this news portion.
Sure, let's talk about more things they broke. So, Fire Slayers. Basically, all of the command abilities got broken to like wholly within their range. So the Runefather and Magmadroth is 24 inches wholly within. The Rune Sun is 12 inches wholly within, which I don't know. Like, so what that's going to do is that you're not going to like be able to pop up and run a tail to buff the unit to charge in. And so like you basically have to have those models like surrounded by all the Fire Slayers, which is really going to hurt the like deep striking like Fire Slayer lists in a serious sort of way, because what's going to happen is that like all those deep striking when they come up are going to have to be clouds around heroes, which is suboptimal. The Warrior Kinbag got clarified to apply to only models and not units, which was pretty dumb. Yeah, so overall, like Fire Slayers are going to be hurting in the competitive play. Just because it's gonna be a hindrance on the actual play style of the lists themselves, or alternatively, people aren't gonna run those heroes anymore. They're just gonna use generic heroes and get rid of all the name stuff, like all the like normal generals, and just not rely on them. So, yep.
Okay.
Gotta love those incentive structures.
The Necromancer says wound or mortal wound on his scroll, Tom, and it does work on both.
Oh, okay. Must have changed that. Got it.
There you go. Research completed. All right. Sylvaneth, the Kurnoth Hunter's Envoy of the Everqueen changed a lot. It's now basically if a friendly Sylvaneth hero uses a command ability, you may measure the range of that command ability from the hunters instead of the hero.
Yeah.
As opposed to just sort of like automatically kind of bubbling out all over the place. Like, it's a big difference in text. I don't know what to say about that, because that's interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I'll have to get Tyler's hot take on that one, but that's a big change. Let's see. Seraphon, they changed like battalions everywhere. I don't know what the old battalions did, But if you ran any crazy Lizardmen battalions, Slon battalions, as they shall properly be known by their first 2 3rd edition names, Slon. I'm gonna hipster your Lizardmen with the more hipster Slon. Then those changed. And the Slon with the Light of Dracothian cannot use it to unbind anywhere on the battlefield. Daughters of Cain, they stopped the crazy stacking with Marathi. And the Slaughter Queen, a unit can't be picked to benefit from those abilities more than once. Sorry, Heywo Twitch. And the Flesh Eater Courts got a total rewrite of like all of their summoning. Like, good lord, just go read it. It's a magenta explosion. I don't know. Just read it if you play Flesh Eater Courts. Like, it's nuts.
There's 2 paragraphs, two parts that aren't magenta.
Yeah, it's like if you play that army, congratulations on your new army book, basically, in the FAQ. You got a lot of information to absorb. And with that, the FAQ deep dive is complete.
Oh, we're not done yet. Because
we're not.
Now we need to talk about Basegate.
Is that a 3rd rail over there? I'm going to go touch that real quick.
Basegate. What you all didn't know is that GW, as part of this release, came out with an official base chart.
I mean, they all knew that. We all knew that. That was coming. They've said it's coming.
Something that has not been done very often in prior history of an official base chart.
I believe the last official basing chart. I can't remember if Ravening Hordes did. Somebody double check me on that. If Ravening Hordes, that printout from 6th edition did. But the last formal basing restrictions I knew of were 3rd edition. 3rd edition had them printed in the stat blocks. So,
well, regardless, a lot has changed.
I love that this is the hill that everybody has decided to die on today. Not the FAQ changes, not everything else that not points, not anything. Nope. This is it.
Well,
this is where
unlike everything else, we can just adjust our lists. This, we have to go fucking rebuild models. We have to go cut models off bases to run them in tournaments.
I felt like I was watching Patrick Stewart's speech from First Contact about the Borg in the chats today about this.
Yeah, I mean, like, so for example, here's just a great taste of this. Flesh Eater Courts, Ghoul King. He comes with a 40 mil base. They're telling you need to base him on a 25.
That seems small.
A 40 to a 25.
That seems small for him.
The Bloodrack Medusa, the one that I was particularly rancorous about, comes with a 40 currently. They just boxed these 3 months ago. Comes with a 40 mil base, and now they're saying they need to be on 60s.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What? 60s.
Well, the other fun one, so we should talk about the dragons.
Yeah. I'm getting there.
Chuck will have some thoughts on this one, because Chuck rolls them. He's got some high elf dragons floating around, I imagine.
So apparently the high elf and dark elf dragons, the aura of presence contained, or the aura presence projected by the warrior as opposed to the wizards for both the dark and high elves is different, because even though the high elf, like the archmage on dragon,
it's one kit. The sorceress and warrior, they're one kit. They're all one kit.
Yeah, for both high elves and dark elves. The warriors on both are on ovals.
Yeah, like the big oval too, like the
120 by 92.
No, I think they're on. No, they're on the bigger one than that.
The 160.
Hold on. Keep talking. I'll look it up. Keep going. Talk.
Needless to say, the warriors are on ovals now. The wizards are on rounds, even though they are the identical kit. So for those of you that were like wanting to swap the hero on top, you can't do that now. Because they have different basing.
Yeah. So specifically what we're referencing here is stuff like, let's see. So what group is that stupid There he is. So like the Dreadlord on Black Dragon is on a 105 by 70. He's on like the smaller chariot oval.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
really cool.
It is. Whereas the Sorceress on Black Dragon is on the 100 mil round. That's the same kit.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the sorceresses are on larger rounds, where all the warriors are on small chariots.
Well, and then the High Elf dragons, which are basically the same size as the Dark Elf dragons, right? I mean, I can't think of.
Yeah, they're just more horizontal than vertical, but yeah.
Yeah, they're on the like Knight Titan base, like the 170 by 105. You know, I'm talking about the Knight Titan oval. They're on that thing.
The High Elves are?
Yeah. Archmage on Dragon and Drakeseer are both on the 170 by 105.
So the Dark Elf Dragon got real good just because his base is tiny. It's like a white lion chariot.
He's tall. Yeah. He's very tall.
Wow.
So the Dragon Lord. Wait, which one? No, that's not the right guy. What's the No, is the Dragon Lord the guy on the dragon? Stupid Order Draconis people.
I don't know. The Dragon Prince is the knight.
Hold on.
There's Dragon Lord.
Order Draconis. I've got to look up these dumb scrolls. Who's looked at these in forever? Okay, yes. The Dragon Lord, who is the guy who isn't the other two people I just mentioned, on a High Elf Dragon, right? Yeah. He's on a 120 by 92. So he's on the chariot base.
He's on the medium chariot base, not the small chariot base.
Correct.
Because the Dark Elves are on the small chariot base.
Yes.
So all of the dragons on different bases.
Everyone. Yeah. So like the Eldritch Council dragons, which are, again, this is all the same kit, right? The Dragon Lord, the Archmage on Dragon, and the Drakeseer. These are all the same kit. Are on very different size ovals or ovals and rounds. So yeah, little bit of wackiness going on.
GW. Really? Like, so much for standardization.
All right, so now we've got to, like, I'm sure our people are losing their mind. I'm sure this is in the comments as well. So let's talk about what this is. Well, first of all, hold on. I'll save this real quick. This is the recommended base chart. They didn't print like this is what they have to be on, all that. They didn't say that. They said this is our recommended base chart. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way.
One job.
Well, I mean, actually, they had like 100 jobs right
true.
now.
That's a good call.
They are doing like 100 things. And I've got to imagine this is not. I'm right. Like internally, I would rank this if I was in charge of priority as like, this is my nice to have.
This is the intern's job, and I get that.
If I'm in product management, this is the nice to have. But anyway,
right? This is the intern's job, and I'm okay with the intern doing this job. Just send them to the website. Start there, and like a lot of these models already have bases in their kit.
Sure.
Rounds and ovals.
Yeah. So here's a hot thought. Okay, and then I'm gonna throw it over to Chuck for his thoughts on this. Here's a hot take. Okay. Maybe don't start rebasing your stuff off of this chart. Just a thought. Maybe we can all just calm down for a minute and understand, like, do we all agree that this chart has some weirdness to it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That seems to be pretty universally agreed. Okay, cool. Well, if we all agree with that, then why don't we just not rebase right now? And why don't we send some emails to the email address that's specifically for these kinds of questions? Okay. It's publicly posted that requests, if you have feedback or questions, please send it here. And why don't we send in our questions and say, hey, this seems strange that you said ogres are on 50 mils, basic ogre bulls, when in your pictures of the ogres in the books, they're on 40 mils. So that's weird. And these single kits that make two of the same thing are told to be on different bases. It seems strange. Are we wrong? Is there some other thing going on that we're not aware of? Maybe we could just all ask that question. And then maybe, like anything else, they take this in and, maybe they fix it. And then we have a different list and they say, okay, updated list. Here we go.
We
After
have
getting
we,
feedback.
we have 113 people watching right now.
Yeah.
So I want to exhort all of you to go grab that email list and send an email regarding the basing chart.
Sure.
We'll wait.
By the way, don't yell them up and down about this. Like, seriously, that's probably not helpful. Like, I'm not trying to be like Mr. Positivity here. Like, it's a problem and it probably needs to be addressed. So send them something that's honestly asking the legitimate question, right? Like the intern who gets that, who you're yelling at or whatever, who's the first person who has to read that, and then all the way up the chain might not be the person who ultimately put this together, right? Like you might get through a lot of people, so probably don't yell.
Right.
It's like walking into a store and yelling at the person behind the counter.
Right. They didn't do that thing.
They didn't do that thing that you're angry about.
Right.
You know, probably don't ruin their day. They're a human being. So just let's all get it. Let's all point out the issue and get it fixed. And then once we have something that makes more sense, we can then make a decision. By the way, what I said is, first, this was my point that I made in one of the WhatsApp groups. I'll keep rambling for a minute. I think that for most like horde infantry models, we need a set locked base side, right? Base size. Like say, because like the difference between a witch elf or a plague bearer or a whatever on a 25 versus a 32 versus a 40 is massive, right? When you're running like blocks of 30 or 60 or whatever of them. Yeah. It's a big difference in how they play. But if we're talking about like a single hero or a single monster, like a range or a selection of bases is probably fine. Because in most cases, as long as it's sort of within a certain spot for a lot of these things, it really probably doesn't matter.
There is a pretty big difference, pretty big swing from like the 100 mil oval to the 160 oval. Like you could fit 3 of those dragons.
I didn't say there's no line. Okay.
Sure.
There is. Sure. Yes. But here's an example. They put the giant, the Chaos Gargant on an oval. On like a 90 by 52 or whatever it is. Like the smaller chariot base. The little itty bitty chariot base. All mine are on like 80 mil rounds. Is there really a tangible play difference between those two bases? No.
They all fail one quarter of their charge.
Exactly. Like even actual like square millimeterage, they're almost the same. Right. So like my point is that some of this stuff can have a range and that's fine. Cool. All right. So like maybe we don't need to lock it down to just one thing with especially some of these old big legacy kits. We can have a couple. And yeah, maybe there's some that are too big and some that are too small. Those aren't on the list. But maybe if there's a couple that are pretty close together in the middle and pretty similar and a round and an oval that are pretty similar, who cares? Who cares if it's a single model? Let it go. Maybe that can be cool. Chuck, go.
I will preface it by saying within the past 6 months, I rebased 950 some elves, and I'm about to run Nova's GT within 2 months. So, boy.
So how many more do you have to rebase now?
Actually, okay, so it's honestly not many, and some of it isn't a concern. The big concerns I would have had if all of a sudden witch elves are on 32s or bloodletters are on 25s. The heroes, it's annoying, but it's not as big of a deal. So when I want to use a dragon, I could just grab one. I can rebase one model. That's not that big of a deal to me. I'm not rebasing tons of stuff again. But what's frustrating is there was sort of a developed what's close, what makes sense, and some of it did translate over to this, and some of it did miss the mark. I can say, Tom, in the modular community pack, you did a nice little guide for how you could possibly rebase. It was more of a common sense type thing. I actually expanded that out into its own document to use for Nova Open because people were asking that question. It's like, okay, well, I'll make something. It wasn't that hard to expand that out. And most of it was common sense. So all the dragons were on 120 by 90 or 92. So
weird. I can't imagine.
Well, and that's my point. Like, I would strongly encourage TOs to not implement this basing chart as it exists right now. Why would you do that when there is clearly some strange things going on with it? Maybe we all just take a pause and wait.
Right. So the expanded guide, I did It was on the community website. It was its own standalone thing. I took it off to prevent confusion because, Vince, I think you're right. There's things in here that don't make much sense.
Right.
That can be clarified pretty quickly and pretty easily. Now, for Nova, I already had a few people ask, like, oh no, like, I'm on this, but it says this, I'm on this, and I'm said this. I'm like, you're fine. It's if you're coming to me and saying all of a sudden all my blood letters are on 25s, okay, sorry, make those 32s. That's a big swing. If you're one heroes on something slightly different, it's probably not going to make much.
You put a hero on horse on like the scenic 75 instead of the 60. Who cares?
my Daughters of Cain, when that book came out, like 25, so it says put everything on 25s for the Slaughter Queens and Hag Queens. No, they're on 32s because it looks nicer.
Nope. No, illegal.
No, they are on like all mine are on 32s, and I'm pretty sure it says 32s in there. But anyways,
no, they're all 25s. They changed them all to 25s, Vince. Despite what is in the box, they changed them to 25s.
Oh yeah, they are 25s. Well, mine are still on 32s, and they're staying on
32s.
Illegal.
Right.
No, they're not illegal.
Right.
It is not illegal. Recommendations are not law. Recommended.
I think the key point is don't look at it like, oh, they messed up. It's like, no, they tried. We have been asking for this. They put it out there. Okay, now let's work to maybe correct it in a way that makes a little bit more sense with some of these oddities that are within it.
So you're saying we did this to ourselves?
No, here's what I'm saying. You ready? Here's my argument. GW put out a recommended base size chart. But what we're saying as the community is, well, GW, you should have known that you can't have something that's recommended, because recommended, you printed it. As soon as you said it, no matter how much you caveat it, there will be portions of the community, in whatever way we want to define that, who take it as dictum and the word in the law because it was published by you. So you should have known that should have happened and should have thought ahead to the consequences of how that should have been. And then instead publish things like ranges and stuff like that to make sure that we all had that, because what we said we wanted was a base chart, but that was wrong. Okay. We didn't want a base chart. We got a base chart. Congratulations. If you've ever said, I want a base chart, you got it. Problem solved. But that's not what we wanted. What we wanted was validation that the choices we had made were all correct. That's what we wanted. Right. And the only way we were going to get that is if a chart comes out with ranges and says, here's our recommended range of things. And then that allows people to then take it and run from there. Because as soon as they printed one number, we're asking them effectively, you should have known that you can't put optional on a thing.
Yes. I mean, I would disagree though. I would expect them to be internally consistent. And I think that's the thing that burns me.
Yes.
Is that like, it's one thing for me to buy a model and have to like, that comes with a square base and have to buy a round. Okay, whatever. That hasn't been repacked. I'll deal with that. Sure. But it's another thing for me to buy a model that has a round that I'm now being told I have to spend $5 to $8 more for another round. You know, for like the large monster bases, that's what it costs off their website. It's another $5 to $8.
The MDF bases are 2 for $1 in that size. But
right, but I'm buying their product. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
Like, and if I'm buying their product, like the markup is another $5 to $8 to buy the right base that they have not provided me with.
I understand.
And that's the frustration, is that you've given us a base and it is not that thing. Like, it was one thing when there's confusion between like the Plague Bearers, like 25s to 32s. Okay, whatever. Getting started with 32s, original box 25s. That's not the world we're in now. We're in a world where you released product 4 months ago with the Daughters of Cain, and those bases are wrong.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, but again, that's like,
right.
I honestly have no, as I said before the show, I honestly have no issue with that. And what I mean by that is, it seems unfair, but who cares? Like, they've decided, they didn't formally think about it, let's say, in an organized fashion before. Let's assume for a moment that this was an organized effort. There are other evidence we have that says that might not have been the case. Okay. But if they approach this in a fashion where they said, look, we've reconsidered it and this is what we think is legit, they can change a decision they made 3 months ago. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. It doesn't matter if they put it in a kit 3 minutes ago. If that's what they decided, then that's what they decided. And okay. But the issue is what I don't like is the weird inconsistencies, right? Where it's like, and again, that's not between like what something had and what I bought, because these things have kind of varied and we didn't have it formalized. So it might not have been as stock as we would want. What I don't like is when I see a bunch of stuff that's the same model and has like 2 to 3 different bases, depending on how that model's built. Like that's problematic, because that just, I don't know what to do with that. Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like there's no reason those big centerpiece models that have all these weird bases are also the models that people put the most time and effort into, right? They tend to be like centerpiece bases that people really invest time into. So it's not a thing you can easily just rip apart and change, right? So hence why I still think like a range is the better answer for them, so that people can keep those things that are like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like when I buy product that's newly released, I expect it to have shelf life longer than 3 months for the numbers and values to be accurate.
I understand. I mean, it's, again, let's not die on this hill and overstate it. It's the basis. Sure. The product inside is the models. The bases are what I would call incidental to the model. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if they changed rules where like sprues had different loadouts from the War Scroll when you bought them.
Hey. It would be a shame. Thank goodness that doesn't happen to any armies that are relevant. All right, so
indeed.
All right, so I don't know, Chuck. Any other thoughts on basing? Have we beat this horse to death? My God.
No other thoughts on basing.
All right. So I think that actually brings us to the end of the news. We mentioned the Deepkin points thing, right? Did we mention that officially? I don't know if we mentioned that.
I don't think we mentioned it.
No, this is a good one too. This is awesome. This is so good. Go, Vince.
Yeah, somehow we did skip that one. I'm sorry, I don't know how. All right, so Idoneth. This is pretty great. So Idoneth have points in their book. Okay, so then the leaks came out of GHB that people were looking at. And things jumped around. Like the avatar of the Storm went to 440.
So we lost it as an ally.
The
Leviathan
went to 420, and the Leviathan went up 60 points to 440. Right?
Yeah, and I remember you musing about that in our last show, and you're like, or in the 8-hour show, and you're like, I have no idea what happened with that Leviathan.
Yeah, I was like, maybe they think cover's really good. Like, I don't know.
No, it's the double crossbow. The extra shots.
The double crossbow, yeah. 6 shots, 60 points. That's just math right there, guys. I don't know how you're not seeing it. Yes, I do remember that now. And then in the FAQ, they released a thing that said, oopsies, never mind. Please ignore the points changes in the Idoneth book. They are all wrong. The original points listed in the book are correct. So the Leviathan is still 380. The Avatar of the Storm, Melee Atar is still 400, and Cast Atar is 440. So there you go. Yes.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
I love that. What I'm excited about with that is that who was it? I don't remember who did it.
It was Christian. If you're talking about who sold a bunch of models on eBay.
No. That's just unfortunate. No, I'm talking about the blood avatar.
Oh,
yeah. Timmy?
Yeah, I think so. It might have been. I was looking at his model again today. Because I bought one to do a similar conversion. But I don't want to use that head.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was a super cool conversion. I love the look of it. And I was like so sad that he lost his awesome ally for his dock. Because I was like, oh man, that's kind of shapoopy. I mean, you could just use it as an avatar, right? But like, okay.
Yeah.
That's not as cool, right? No. It's a bit of a power difference between that 400-point beater and the 180-point avatar. Like avatars are good, but they're not that. And but no, he's fine. Still has it, still in. Thumbs up. Yay! Blood Avatar is still good to go. Yay, blood. All right, so good times. I was happy to see that. It all ended happily. Proof that we should all wait until you see the full picture before you freak out, because
Right.
sometimes things will surprise you.
And sometimes it won't matter because it'll change 3 months later.
It's also true. I'm just saying, like, you should generally wait. You know, it's one of the common lessons of life is that you should wait until you have all the information before you make large decisions. Just saying.
Hey, models don't eat and they don't cost rent, so that's why I have a shelf of 950 some elves.
There you go. Just wait, biding their time.
Yep.
Waiting to be cut up and turned into angelic elves when Teclis and Tyrion unleash their new forces.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Angel elves.
All right. Absolutely. Okay. Woof. All right, boys. So that brings us. I'm glad somebody mentioned that in the chat. I didn't see who did it, but thank you for reminding me. That was the one thing I didn't include in my list, apparently. That brings us to the end of the news. That was a big one. There's probably other little things in there too that we missed, but I mean, come on, we did an hour and 40 minutes of news. Like, we've got to stop at some point. All right. I think we hit the high notes. Never mind. I do have one more important thing to mention. Digital White Dwarf is dead. Not regular White Dwarf, but digital White Dwarf.
There was a digital White Dwarf.
Yeah, there was. You could get the digital copy or the physical copy, and they killed the digital one. Okay. Like, that surprised me. And then the other really important thing that we should mention is that the final Malign Portents short story is done.
Oh, yeah, it
the
was
last
good.
one went up,
Mm-hmm.
which was the Great Black Pyramid.
Those damn Skaven. Every time.
Yeah, the Skaven.
Every time.
Doing the Great Horned Rat's work. Every
Doing
time
chaos
Nagash
work.
built a pyramid, we get in there and we mess it up.
Just
And I
rip it
love
on down.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember it from our Malign Portents show in January, but I made the joke about like why it was floating upside down, and I was like, so the Skaven can't get in there.
it. Yeah, we did make that joke. Nope. We'll
Nope.
find a
Skitterly.
way.
Nope.
Skitterly.
And they're
bit.
like, Skitterly, bitch!
Look, that's a guarantee. As long as you keep building dumb giant black pyramids, Nagash, rats are going to keep infesting it. So
I just enjoy the story how he is so old he forgot, but when it was happening, he's like, "This seems very familiar."
And he's like, I've taken into account Teclis and Tyrion. I've taken into account Zinch, and I've taken, like he goes through all of his enemies. He's like, the Skaven. Yeah, shit. Like that's what he
wait
could have
a
said.
minute.
That's it. And then it was like, boom, everything blows up.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Mhm.
Yes, that was my favorite part of that story. I am so happy that in the final moment of the story, we got to figure into the Skaven got to figure it into it again. As there's a lot of armies that I truly love. I think of all the forces I have, there are probably 3 that I truly identify with, that I truly feel are like me. We all have those forces that are like our forces, right? That we have armies, but there's ones that are really in our heart. For me, that's Ironjawz is the newest one that came in and just filled my heart space. Slaanesh, but certainly the rats. I was a rat before I was anything else, and they'll always maintain that spot in my heart. So I do dig it. Yeah, so those I think are the other 2 big pieces of news. All right, cool. So, gentlemen, let's turn to a little pick of the week because, we should share some stuff.
Mhm.
So, what would you like to share with everybody?
Well, my pick of-
Chuck, go first.
the return episode of The Dwellers Below.
Ah, it's a hot pick.
I remember listening to them. Heck, back when I was still barely a garage gamer, and just having them come back. It's welcome. It's nice. They have a good dynamic. It's just super fun. I'm glad that the Cav Princess horse is done. So maybe one day that whole model will be complete. And if you don't know that joke, then just listen to the episodes. But yeah, it's very happy to hear them back in my ears again.
can I share a personal story, and maybe some other people will find this illustrative, because I listened to that episode and I loved the Dwellers Below. Like I really did when I listened to them every episode that came out, because in general I like Australian podcasts and stuff the best. And so when they came, I listened to that first episode, and I will openly admit that demon on my shoulder, okay, was like, when they were talking, was a bit like, there's a part of me that wanted to be like, oh, welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Too good for the game up until now, huh? Well, we've been here the whole time. Where were you? And now you want to just come back and you want to be welcomed in? You want us to just forget? All right. Like that little demon spoke.
Vince isn't bitter.
No, no, this is what this story is about.
Yeah.
Because that's there, right? Like that voice was in my head of a podcast that I loved and a bunch of guys that I thought were awesome. Okay. Yeah. And that voice still spoke up. And then I had to stop myself and step back and go, that's dumb. Mm-hmm. Who cares? Who cares when or how they came to it? Everybody came to this game, any game, at a different time. People come and go for different reasons, for life reasons, for other reasons. None of that matters. We should celebrate everybody who's here now, who's enthusiastic, who's making content. These people put together a 2-hour podcast for you to listen to and not be bored while you're doing stuff around the house. And you're going to get angry about it for a minute. Shut up that part of my brain. You're an idiot. And after I kind of had that moment of catharsis, and I was like, nah, I am super glad they're back. I want to see tons more from them. There you go. So my point is, we can't exclude like that. Who cares when people come back or for whatever reason?
I went through a similar thing probably a couple of years ago, and it's just realizing we're not entitled to this game. The more people we have back in this hobby, the better. And the greater the game can grow, the better the community can be. It's not about who is here first or who's doing what. It's just, are you here? It's the same thing with Stormcast Strong. It doesn't matter where you're at. As long as you have a goal and you're working towards it and you're here, if you're showing up, you're doing better than people that aren't even showing up. And that's what it's about.
I totally agree. All right. Tommy, what's your pick, buddy?
Well, since he didn't spruik himself, I'm going to spruik him. Here you go, Chuck. Chuck is doing the Stormcast Strong. Check it out. We'll have the link below. It's there you go. Boom! Look at those guns.
You are a beast. Folks. You post your weight sometimes on your tweets. I'm like, Jesus God. You're a beast. That's what I'm saying.
Just wait till I get more YouTube videos out than of me actually lifting, and then I can impress you.
All right. So my pick is going to be something that is perhaps a bit melancholy, but celebratory and awesome all at the same time. So my pick is this. Recently at Triumph GT, which was run by Martin Orlando, who put together, by all accounts from everything I've heard, a truly awesome GT. Ant from the Sustainable Center was in there as a ringer. And he decided to run for his ringer army, Bretonnia, like a true Bretonnian army. Like he got out all the knights and he built as competitive as a force as he could build. And he's up to the second battle report. And I'll link that one because it is glorious to watch the knights ride. Like he's using grails and questings and buffing them. And there's a point where the knights make a charge into a big greater demon, blow him up because they're all 3 damage knights, and then split and double charge because it was the person was using the thrice-fold befoulment or whatever. And those grail and questing knights blow their way through multiple guos. Okay, they cut that down and then ride away. And I was like, it's a glorious, perhaps end to this wonderful realm, since they might be losing their match play points at some point in time. Here, not too far away. Well, losing, i.e. not whatever the heck that means.
They are being retired to the fields of Warhammer Legends.
Yeah, we still don't know how that's going to mean because I would guess that it would be TO enforced because the points are still out there. Those are printed PDFs.
Right, but they're changing the war scrolls. So those war scrolls are going to be for points that aren't those things.
Right. Which would be the way to actually
like all the Dark Elf stuff as well.
Yep.
Yes, those will need to be repointed if TOs want to allow them.
Sure. But at any rate, it's a one regardless of what ends up happening with them in the future. It is some glorious battle reports to watch them ride to victory. So check it out. It is both celebratory and melancholy all at the same time. All right. So hobby time. Chuck, what have you been working on, buddy?
Trying to finish the last 5 Canary I have, the Heart Renders, just so I can have everything done before Saturday at the official release of the new edition. Just want to have one of every unit of the Daughters of Khaine army, and then from there working on some Idoneth allies, my Realms at War. Here, I'll bring this. My Realms at War Aether Lab right now. Where's the camera? So just tore apart old Cauldron pieces, gonna be pulled by a Hydra. And that is mostly it, other than about to finalize the Nova pack for the GT and Doubles event.
Nice. I'm excited, man.
Quick call out, using the schemes that you guys generously made and offered to allow me to use for the team event. So
sweet. I want to see how that works out. I'll be interested. I'll be there the whole time. I can't play in any of the tourneys because I'm the way my classes lined up this year for teaching.
Here's the scheme cards.
Oh, sexy.
Ooh.
Nice. Yeah. But I'm going to be around the whole time, certainly, all weekend. And I look forward to seeing everybody at Nova. If you see me at Nova, please come up. It's going to be here sooner than you think, man. It's crazy how quick that's going to come up. It's sad because that's the end of summer, basically. Like, it's Labor Day weekend. But I know how fast summer blows by. So, but yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Nova. It is, I think, perhaps my favorite convention I go to every year. I really do. It's such a great time. Yeah, I think that's pretty true. I love AdeptCon and always will, but there's something really special about Nova. So it's got a big heart. Tom, what about you, man? What's your hobby time?
So, funny story.
Oh, I'm ready.
I went with something a little bit different this week.
Are we going to look at pictures? Is that what you're clicking?
We are.
His purchases.
Bow!
Yeah, man.
Boom!
Ooh.
Look at your Stormcast. Like the front of a book. Just super classic. Stormcast classic.
Little transfers on the shoulder and everything. Like, I went all in.
Nice.
You did.
So,
nice.
like, I've been doing, here we go. Here's another one. I've been doing, like, Warhammer with my kids, like, almost every night. Like, they come home from camp and they're like, "Can we play Warhammer?" And I'm like, yes, we can. And they've been playing Stormcast. And so I'm painting up some Stormcast model for the kiddos. And so I wanted to give them, and then, like, I want to do something for them. And then also, if I run tutorials, something that I could, like, give people a good feel for the world. That's not like a bunch of crazy Mohawk dwarves that are in spaceships. And so, yeah, totally. Yeah, so I'm knocking these guys out. I've just been having a fun time with Stormcast. Like, I'm still working, like, as I've been here, I've been working through, like, the various layers and base coats of all my witch elves. So I'm still working on that project, but I'm just kind of mixing in some of these Stormcasts here and there, and I built a bunch of terrain. So I'm gonna do a big 4x4 graveyard, and it'll be fun. I want to have, like, a very high quality, like, demo setup for folks. So yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Very cool.
I dig it, man. It's cool. Yeah, Stormcast are cathartic to paint. They really are. Like, there is something incredibly relaxing about painting Stormcast. For myself, I worked on my own happy place this last week, which was robots. I worked on one of the little robots. One of these little robots. One of these guys. These dudes are so fun. Oh my god. Like, these are all the fun of Night Titans, but, like, in bite-sized form. These are the frosted mini wheats of robots. You know, like, you ever have the old style frosted wheats that's just like a giant thing. It's like a brick you put in a bowl and pour milk
It's like
on
a
it.
patty.
Break it up with your spoon. They're terrible and awful to eat. But then you get these, like, you get the little ones and they're delicious. This is what this is. I love the big robots. I love Night Titans. But yeah, I did this guy in a weekend. It was maybe like 40 hours or something. Knocked him out. And he was a lot of fun. I have another one, obviously, because they come 2 in a box. So I was excited about that. We'll do the other one here soon. And then I'm kind of waiting on other fantasy stuff. So I don't know if it's going to show or not. This is probably blocked by people's faces. But right there.
Yeah.
Can't probably see it. You know what that is? That's terrain, baby.
I was going to say, it looks like terrain.
That's right.
That can't be what I'm actually looking at.
I am.
It's basing material.
I was saying, you building a new base?
Nope. Terrain. Real, honest to God terrain for my table.
For what?
For my table. Yeah.
You liar. You liar.
You're playing for those dragons on 170 by 90.
That's right.
He's put a whole castle on it.
Oh, on that dragon? Look,
Yeah.
boom. Terrain. See? Real, honest to God
Oh,
terrain.
wow.
Okay.
Why?
Because I want to have cool terrain for my table. With the new, I like the new scenery rules, and I think they're square, and I want to make sure I have like some of the bad effects led my group to not love them as much. But so, I'll do some other stuff, put some other stuff on here, some other basing bits and things. I got a little stone path and little ruins and bags and stuff,
Good for you, Vince.
I'm going to do a couple of these. They're fun and easy and quick. And it's just going to be things I have kind of decided and I'm working on as I'm working on other stuff. So,
yeah, those are good for. I'm so proud of you, Vince. That's
Yeah, man.
awesome.
I'm growing. I'm growing as a hobbyist.
You are. You are.
So there you go. And like as a base, of course, I'm stealing like as the actual base of it.
CDs.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Oh, nice.
As soon as I looked at it, I was like, oh, he's doing CDs.
Yep, that's the shape. It's always like I got, because we've all got the stacks of like old CDRs or DVDRs or whatever sitting around from when that was a thing. And yeah, I got to put them to use somehow. So why not? There you go.
You know what that is equivalent of? Like in the ancient monastic, like the libraries, where they would like reuse pages.
Yeah.
Like of that held information for other things.
Yep.
Like lining the bottom of like potted plants and stuff like that, like ancient manuscripts. Like that's what you're doing.
Wallpaper.
Yeah.
Insulation. Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So there you go. That's been my hobby time. So I'm kind of waiting. Like I finished up my daughter's, 2500. And so I was like, okay, I wanted to do a few small things before I see waiting on everything to drop. Cause like, I know a bunch of spells are showing up at my door that I'll want to, get.
Slaanesh is coming. That's what this is.
Well, I have a starter box just waiting to be crick cracked. And I want to see because like, I'm just been trying to find the Slaanesh list that I want. And I need to see the Forge World points.
Well, it's really unfortunate given the removal of their only battalion.
Whatever, it's all fine. That was a trap, anyways. Now I'm back on Team Demon, 100%. I need to see them new points on the Exalted Keeper, and like bring them points down. Bring them down. All right, you can only have one. She's not better than Marathi. That's ridiculous. Okay, come on now. All right.
With her 13 attacks at Ren -3.
It's 14. But and that's real. Yes. But anyway. So that's what I've been working on. Excited. Okay, so let's turn to what we were actually going to talk about in this show. 2 hours in, I knew this was going to be this kind of show. My wife asked me before the show, do you think this is going to be a long show today? I said, yes. Yes, it is. It's going to be a very long show.
I just didn't answer my wife when she asked me.
Sure.
My wife asked if it was going to be a relaxing time, and I said it was 10 minutes after I said yes. and it all changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it goes.
Right. So the actual topic of this show was the AOS version 1 send off and look back. where we look at we thought we'd look back in our clip show of the entire history of Age of Sigmar. So I did my best to assemble a little bit of timeline before the show. Let me say this. How is there not a Wikipedia page for this or something like that that lists the actual date of the releases? Or if there is, I can't find it. If someone has it, throw it in the comments or shoot it at me because I could not find it. I scoured the internet. I can find the Warhammer Fantasy release, right? For like when the books came out month and year. For everything fantasy going back basically over its history. But I can find nothing for the AOS releases of when like books and stuff came out. So I don't know. If I'm missing something, help me out. So I had to reassemble this from like various articles and things. So if we are a little off on our dates, it's because I can't find an official record. But shall we begin, gentlemen? Shall we take our minds back to 3 years ago? Almost like to the week, to almost this exact day. Okay. Because I believe it was the 28th of June that this happened. And the reason I think it was the 28th of June, maybe it was the 20th. I don't know. It was either the Thursday or the Friday. I do not remember. It was a day when I was coming down to Tom's house.
Oh, yeah.
With a bunch of people. To play in a weekend-long marathon of D&D. Okay? And as I was sitting at Hofbrauhaus, enjoying some delicious German pretzels and schnitzel and other things that have Zoll in them, the internet exploded because we saw pictures of the Stormcast in the flesh or in the metal for the first time.
No, we saw the announcement cards.
Yes.
With all of the text, and everybody was trying to code break the Stormcast language. Do you remember that?
Sure. We saw the pictures though too. The first pictures of Stormcast leaked right there that day, and the announcement that was like, July 4th, because that was the big release, right? Age of Sigmar, July 4th. Everybody remembers those posters. Independence Day, Age of Sigmar Day, that thing, right? And so, Chuck, what was your initial thought? Let's take you back. When that dropped and when you were looking at that, where was your mind at? What were you thinking?
So we're going to back up slightly more. The first inkling I got that this is a bigger change than expected is I saw a leak of Seraphon, Lizardmen at the time, on ovals and rounds. It was the first army I saw in rounds.
Yeah, there was a couple of those, like a Screaming Bell picture. It showed up. Somebody just mentioned in the comments. Yes, there was a couple of like round base pictures that had.
Right. Well, that was the scandal. Like back in January, we knew we were going to rounds.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where it looked good. You couldn't argue. It looked good on rounds. So fast forward, seeing the Stormcasts, I looked at them and said, "Okay, I like the aesthetic. It seems very traditional Paladin style. I'm curious what the story is going to be." So it was, for me, it was all in right away. Granted, I didn't start playing Warhammer Fantasy until 8th edition, the very beginning. And I was like, oh, I'll just take my elves. I'll probably eventually do something with them, with their basing and move them over. And maybe I'll pick up some of these Stormcast guys. So excited for a change, excited for a reset. Not knowing just exactly how deep the reset was going to be, just knowing that it was going to be bigger than I thought.
All right. Tom, what about you?
I was really skeptical. I think that's probably an accurate statement. But I mean, I think I was like, okay, I was in the middle of my my goblin army. I was working on my my forest goblins at the time. And I was excited. I mean, I like, as skeptical as I was, like, it was something.
Holy crap! Stop! Hold! Pause! I got to direct everybody to this incredible resource that Paul just linked me to. Holy shnikes! Shout out! Huge shout out! I can't believe I didn't find this earlier. I didn't think to look here. You may want to do some search engine optimization, Eric, because the Mortal Realms, our buddy Eric and Paul and everybody at the Mortal Realms. On their site at themortalrealms.com, there is a link at the top that says data and then releases, and you can just go straight to an Excel sheet, and they have an Excel workbook of every release ever the date of its release, the MSRP, and even War Scroll links. This is amazing. So
with 270 entries.
Yeah, that's pretty great. So I love that I spent hours earlier today looking for this and couldn't find it, but Coolio, whoever
Thanks,
at the
Eric.
Royal Realms put this together, incredible work. Anywho, please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. I was in. I was interested in what the story was going to be because they blew up the world. We'd had a bunch of rumors, even fairly late, of like knights in like a mixed order army as the new starter. Like that was the best way to describe it. Like they had like a bunch of different races. And then another set of rumors had it as like a bunch of knights. And it looked like the language was Bretonians. A bunch of heavier armored characters.
I heard Holy Chaos Warriors is what I kept hearing. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure, because it was the holy counter to Chaos Warriors, right? Yeah, that was the. Yeah,
and that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so myself as well, I was all in, but like I went out, got my starter boxes, ordered a ton of extra like Stormcast off of the bit sites. Broke all them up, built my whole army on the cheap. Like they kept making characters and I kept converting liberators. Like
Magazine was great for that.
If you just keep putting liberators, if you just put more jangles and stuff and put the right weapons on liberators, they can be anybody.
That is a true story.
It's sort of a detriment to the army. But obviously, I would say overall, this was a dark time. So in my research, one of the things I did today in putting this timeline together was punish myself by going back and reading all of the articles from this time.
Was this the darkest timeline?
This, I mean, like, if you go back and I went and read the comments on the articles posted on sites like Bulls from this time, okay, just to really like, that's a it's a self-selection bias, but
to immerse yourself in the cultural milieu.
Indeed. And let me tell you what, the three of us, we're standing here now and we're clearly all in and have rode this wave as it's gone along through its peaks and valleys. But boy, was that not the general attitude at the time, at least perhaps in the broader sentiment and also it was certainly within this specific site. There's lots of people who were still, who were along for the ride, but it was clearly rough. If you go back and read the comments, it is some of the most hateful, just bile spitting you can get. Don't do that. It'll make you sad. And
I still believe that it was the best thing that could have happened, though, because the community that formed from the remnants to what we are now is so great. Because what we set in pace is what we wanted as a community is what has stuck. And it was, we want to be positive, we want to have fun, we want to play toy soldiers, and that mentality stuck even as more and more people come back.
I mean, honestly,
as hard as that was.
yeah.
No, I mean, you're dead on, Chuck. As much as we joke around about, like, we talk all the time about new GW and how GW reinvented itself. I want to identify, like, I want to put my finger on the fact that the community also reinvented itself.
Yeah.
Because those that did stick around, and I mean, Chuck, like, you are dead on here. Like, with the exception of my, like, somewhat negative critique occasionally on the show. I mean, largely it was a community suffused by positive voices. It was a community that truly reinvented itself. If you look at the YouTube videos of Warhammer and how people regarded GW and how people regarded their hobby prior to AOS, and then what emerged post AOS with the long-standing shows like Heel and Hammer, or then the shows that popped up in the wake of that, like Combat Face, Heel and Hammer, Garage Hammer for older stuff, but then the newer stuff that popped up like Mortal Realms and Combat Face and all that other stuff. It is truly tremendous.
Yeah. And Yes, shout out to Aaron at the Mortal Realms, who's the person who made it. So Aaron, you did amazing work on that release history. But yeah, I mean, it was a dark time, but I think there's nothing brings people more together than being in a foxhole, right? Like if you're in a foxhole together, you're friends for the rest of your life. Like that's how that works, right?
Yes, our community were survivors.
Right. And and that's not to discount anybody. I'm not trying to invalidate people's reasons for leaving. If people left or whatever, then whatever. If it didn't speak to you, it didn't speak to you. It did. But at the same time, I would ask, that people didn't. We were just asking, don't invalidate our love of it. We're not trying to invalidate your hate, but don't invalidate our love, right? Like that's the bottom line. Is that what I think is what the community formed around. But it was a dark time, especially those first couple months. There's no points. The releases were basically like, if you go back now that I'm looking at this incredibly awesome release list, if you go back and look, there was some cool like terrain and stuff, things like that. Like this is where the Dragon Fate Dais and the Oculum and the Realm Gates and all that stuff came out. Dreadhold, right?
Yeah.
But those first releases, all the way through to like September, or farther, were basically Stormcast. And
do you remember? Go ahead.
No, and then I was gonna say, and then basically Khorne, and the first sort of reprieve from that was the Seraphon Battle Tome book, right? I mean, like that.
Yeah,
that was that was in November.
Yes. Do you remember? Well, no, yeah, Seraphon, and then Pestilence was right there as well. Do you remember, Vint? What your first game of AOS is like?
Yeah, vaguely. Like honestly, I'm gonna have to. It's not like a flashpoint memory, but we played some amount of wounds and we played some kind of scenario we made up, and it was fine. Like it was whatever it was. And I remember playing a lot of. I remember us making Mordheim pretty quick on the back of that.
Oh yeah, we made Mordheim in August. Like to be clear, like this launched in July, and we did our Mordheim draft in August.
Yeah.
Chuck, do you remember your first game?
Yes. My High Elves went against, I believe, my friends Chaos Warriors, and we ran at each other in the middle, and fought until we died.
I had a similar game of High Elves. But mine were Phoenix Guard, a Phoenix, and Sisters of the Thorn. Not Sisters of the Thorn. What were they called? Sisters of Avalorn. So Sisters of Avalorn, Phoenix Guard, a Phoenix, and a Lore Master against a bunch of Seraphon. And he got a couple models into charging range. We were playing wounds, but I mean, all of my stuff was elite, what would later be like 200-point units for 10. And he didn't make it very far. Yeah, it was a very weird gaming experience.
Yeah, the back half of that year was interesting. Like I remember I played a lot of Mordheim, but then as that year went on, what we saw was the evolution of things like MoComp, Azer, SCGT comp, right? And suddenly, like, things started drifting slowly toward the positive by the end of the year, the beginning of the next year in my mind. Because then I remember playing a lot more games with, like, I think in our group, we mostly used MoComp. Just because I had the table printed out and it was easy. And suddenly, like, it was quick and simple for people to make armies again, right? Like there's no great love of match play or anything like that. We play pretty loosey goosey, but my group generally likes points, right? Just as a guiding principle. In 40K, we play with power levels is a good example, right? Like we don't need the detail. We just want something that says this is all roughly equal, right? Yeah. So that when we got the evolution of those, to me, that was big, right? Because those started getting shared, getting popularized, and really started putting everybody back on a good path, right?
So Battle Tome Chaos Dreadhold.
Yeah, which that's not real, but yes.
Was the first Battle Tome we had.
Yeah, but that's not really real. That's not an army thing. That was just a book that had scenery in it. That was truly the weirdest product that they ever made in that early period.
Look, Tom and Poor Decisions.
Yeah, I know. I know, Tom. Did you? I wasn't looking. Did you just hold up that you own that thing? Yeah,
yeah,
you do.
yeah, I do. It's right here.
Hey,
this is the first AOS battle tome ever printed. How many people actually own this battle tome?
You and Rob owns it because he tweeted out a picture of himself holding it, going, "Why do I own this?"
Yes, indeed, Rob and I.
So there's two. So to me, things like, in addition to turning around December, another interesting thing, like by getting a lot of those points rolling out there, them getting popularized, refined, another big thing happened in December, which was the release of like Archaon, the Varangard, right? All of that stuff. And I remember seeing that Archaon model and being like, okay,
wow, yeah,
this is for real now.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, I remember them releasing that, and I was like, why didn't they do this with End Times? You know, with the book that was named after him. I know, I see him. Oh, I see him. Yeah. Well, not only that, I mean, like, if you're talking smack, hold on. Talking about other pointless purchases at the beginning of AOS.
I know where this is going. Yes, limited edition. Ever Chosen.
Okay,
Battle
to be clear, this is a normal book. This is the Ever Chosen book. This is how this box
oh jeez
is sized. So if you'll notice, this box can't actually sit on a normal bookshelf. It gets an inch too tall, and it's like 3 inches too long.
Because it sits on your coffee table.
Right, like, yeah, that's exactly it. So, but I have these sweet die-cast markers from the Ever Chosen. I don't even know how to open this box. It doesn't open normal. The Ever Chosen diecast. Year one. You want to know where Plague Touch came from, friends? This book.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Anyways, continue.
No, that's fine. Tom was on to the Ever Chosen right away. You can see he's heavily invested in Ever Chosen.
Yeah. So you cut me deep, GW, with the killing of the Ever Chosen battalions.
Yep.
Me and my gold foil pages.
All right. So then we swing into January, and now we've got like points rolling and through the community. Well, I agree with you because like the fact that the community largely adopted community-driven points initiatives, right? By this time, it was pretty set. Most of the tournaments I know were using them to some degree, right? And it showed that like the community was willing to take this and run with it. Like we were going to do the work, right? And then we got Fire Slayers, which I would call the first sort of army, right? That's January in 2016. We get Fire Slayers. We get a battle tome with them, all their stuff. And then we start to get the Grand Alliance books basically shortly after that, right? So Grand Alliance, Chaos, and Death, and all those. Pestilence comes out here in March. Yeah, that's how much later, by the way, Pestilence was, Tom. March of 2016. Doesn't seem like it.
For some reason, I thought it was in that fall.
And something else followed right on the back of that, which was the Stormcast Extremist Chamber. So we got the cracked the first chamber, right? Where we're like, no, we can release more Stormcast.
And everybody's like, what? Stormcast dragons? Go on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh.
Very short. Yeah, that's when we got like the Drakesworn Templar, that big guy, all that stuff, and the Lord Celestino Star Drake. We got Blades of Corn, right? If we all remember that one. Okay. But then, of course, as we're swinging toward summer, the Iron Jaws come out. We get all the Iron Jaws in like April, May. We get Flesh Eater Courts in April, Silver Tower in April, right? All this. And then something quite important happens right there in the middle of the year.
Yep.
What happened? My, oh my, but maybe the most important book in the history of Age of Sigmar came out.
Sorry, hold on. To answer the question, Hui Khan Wargaming, the Blades of Corn Collector's Edition came out in September. We skipped right past that. Here is what it looks like with its weird box as well. Ta-da! Okay, anyways, continue. Yeah, so General's Handbook, the more important book by
Yeah, sorry, Bloodbound. Yeah.
We skipped that.
There you go,
Bloodbound
that's
and
right.
Stormcast came out early.
Yeah, sorry, Bloodbound. Not, I said Blades, but yes. General's Handbook 2016. And this is when, to me, this is when the script got flipped, turned upside down, right? Like, this was it. And obviously, a lot of the people who had been involved in making the community-driven points had an input into this. And this was like, is it possible to understate the importance of this book? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, Chuck, what did when GHB 16 came out? Where were you at? Where were you at with the game? What did you think?
I was finally getting the local community playing games again, and then when that dropped, it was an explosion of people asking about it, wanting to come back. Can I do this? Can I do this? And every answer was yes. Just please keep coming. Please keep coming. So it was the water was running again, but this just turned the tap on full, and everyone started coming back, and it was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, this was the first inflection point, right? This is where suddenly a lot of things turned around.
Accelerant got tossed onto that candle.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It did two things. It invigorated a lot of people. It formalized the community point systems. It was really driven by that same impetus. It gave everybody a common language to speak, right? When it comes to the game. And that's actually something in game design that's really important, is everybody being able to speak the same language. And there was, it formalized that this is the way we're going to talk about the game. Open, narrative, and matched. And these are three real things, and we care about all of them, right? And I think that was incredibly important. Because it said
three pillars.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't, that there isn't one right way to play. There's your way to play. And we're going to try to facilitate, different ways to play under these three broad categories, right? This was, to me, like, you saw a big infusion, a big jump here, right, of people coming back into the game, I think. This also, unfortunately, had a slight downside, wherein it created a dividing line between battle tomes that had come before and battle tomes that had come after, right?
Yes, we got our taste of Sylvaneth here.
Exactly. So Sylvaneth were right on the heels of this. And when their battle tome came out, it was like a totally different world, right? Like, they had spells and they had, just all sorts of wacky stuff going on. It was different than the previous battle tomes. And because we now had these sort of matched play rules of things, or these different structures of things like command traits and artifacts, suddenly the book could be replete with those. And there was so much more to a battle tome, right? Like, I remember I went out, I was all in on that Sylvaneth Force. When that got spoiled, I called up my game store and I said, 2 of everything except Alarielle, 1 of her. Go. Right? And the tome on top. And by the way, I placed that order not when I saw the figs. When the rumor broke, not even a picture, the rumor broke that, like, next month there's going to be Alarielle and she's going to ride a giant beetle. Yeah, that was it. I called
I'm in,
and said 2 of everything and Alarielle. That's it. I'm in. I heard giant beetle riding goddess, and I'm like, yep, let's do this.
And what a mistake it was.
Not at all. I love that army.
Real god.
Oh, well, that's true. I mean, she's a fake goddess. She's
gone.
Yeah. She's fake, but I don't regret that. It's a beautiful army.
Yeah.
So to me, this really represents, like, this is almost the real first phase 2, right?
I think Acon, by the way, for that first year, Adepticon had like 25 people. I think it was like 25 or 50, 40 maybe.
I think it was 40.
That first year.
I think it was 40. Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was quite small.
I mean, 40 was quite small by Adepticon standards.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And then the next year, which would have been 2017 Adepticon, it had 100.
110. Yeah, we're getting there. I was gonna hit that on each year cycle.
No,
Continue.
it's important because it is one of the ways you can track the growth of the game. Not the only thing that matters, but one of the things that matters, right?
Yep.
All right. So we keep going. And then as we move forward, like really for the rest of that year, there wasn't a huge amount, right? Like we got Sylvaneth.
Like, we got a lot of recycling. We got some new stuff with Fire Slayers. We got some Iron Jaws. We got some Sylvaneth, but like Flesh Eater Court, Bone Splittas, Beast Claw Raiders, all of those were recycling.
Yeah. Yep. And still, like the rest of that year, the rest of 2016 was largely like we got the individual heroes from Silver Tower.
That's going to be a collector's edition.
Oh, geez. Oh, geez.
Bam! Dominion of Chaos.
Jesus. Where do you get these things?
The Terrain Book. How many of y'all have this on your shelf? Run these battle plans.
Have you played the battle plans out there? All of them?
No, I have not.
Okay, just checking.
Nope. Not gonna lie. Nope.
True Wargamer. There you go.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So it's really until January of next year, right?
Yeah.
And that's because what happened in January of next year? Boom, Tzeentch. Tzeentch in the house. The Arcanites. We get, sort of the payoff of what Silver Tower had set up in the full Zangor and like what 40K had set up in October the year before, right? Because we saw some of this stuff in 40K. And now we get like the Zangor and the Shamans and the Skyfires and the new Lord of Change and all of this crazy crap, the new Changeling. And woblow. Tzeentch is in effect. And the age of Tzeentch then began, right? Like very shortly afterward, the age of Tzeentch begins.
Well, this is our first taste of Battle Forces as well. Do you remember that? Like at the end of that year, we got our first, because we got, I'm sorry, are you talking about the
end
Silver
of 2016?
Tower?
Yeah, end of 2016, early 2017.
Like, so mid 2016, we got Silver Tower. So we got a taste of Tzeentch, that Tzeentch was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And at the end, starting into January, all of Tzeentch showed up. But we had like a 6-month gap of just nothing.
Right. Yeah, basically. Yes.
Just nothing. It was brutal.
But then the Tzeentch train rolled.
Yep.
And followed quickly by Wabao, open another chamber. Out comes
More
the Hunters.
The hell I can't.
That's right. Out comes the Stormcast again. Followed quickly by the Blades of Corn, proper this time, not the Bloodbound,
Yep.
the actual Blades of Corn.
With no actual like War Scroll releases.
Yeah,
like models.
Yep.
They're just like, oh, have a book.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is where we saw the new design begin to creep in. Like we saw it with Tzeentch, but then we realized that it was going to be much more wide sweeping. Like, do you remember that? Because as soon as Blades dropped, I said Nurgle is coming.
Yeah.
Like we immediately we called it that like Nurgle would likely be not far behind.
Mm-hmm. Which it was not. It was not.
Well, I mean,
in terms of the game, but of it, like in terms of release schedule, that's not that far behind.
Yeah. But
well, we're there, Tom. April 2017.
We all make mistakes sometimes.
There was an old game for Nintendo. I don't remember what it was. Maybe like Crystalis or something. I'm trying to remember. I just remember the game opened with like a lightning flash, and it was like October something, 1997, the end day. Like, that's what I want to set up here. So April 2017. Caradhran Overlord.
It will and we knew that it was coming. We knew that something big was coming. And as a reminder, in that first prior year, we had done the budget of Sigmar. As part of the PMP, where we had like collected an army over 6 months on like $50 a month.
Yep.
And I built an entire dispossessed army of people like dumping their models after AOS. And I got to the end of that with just this huge army that I spent like less than $300 for.
Yeah, you have a massive dispossessed force.
I have a massive dispossessed force.
I built. That's where I built my Tzeentch, who are in this.
Yeah, that's where you built your Tzeentch. I had like this huge dispossessed force. And I was like, GW, give me an airship. And I was going to make an airship. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So
you were all on about it.
And this was 1 year prior. and then I got distracted with some other armies with my Nurgle stuff, and I was working on Nurgle. And because I got distracted with Nurgle, I just didn't go back to my dwarves. But I had always wanted that airship, and then suddenly it was like from the heavens in the video, and like somebody was like vaping in the corner and smoke, and the ships come sailing in, and I was like, "This is it!" And then I'm like, "Oh, wait, no, this is it!" And I did it, and then I was like, "Oh."
And it's been like the roller coaster ride that you have experienced with KO is truly fascinating. In that it was like this unbelievable peak, and it truly was like a roller coaster because it was like way up here, you went way down, came back up, but the second hill is never as high as the first. You were way up for a while, and then and then evened out.
It's like free falling. Woo! And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to stay. I don't have to stay KO. Here I come, mixed order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. You realized you could get on a different ride at the amusement park.
Yeah, no, that's it. And somebody had asked about this. Here's the remnants of that KO shelf right there. So that's the remnants of it. Like, if those of you remember, it was the full shelf. And most of those white boxes are gone.
There you go. So. Yeah, this was a big time. Like, the Kharadron Overlords were so fascinating because they were, like, Fire Slayers still were new, but really seemed like an extension of Slayers, right?
Yeah.
The KO, certainly you could probably find roots in things like gyro bombers or gyrocopters, but I mean, boy, they were a much farther leap.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Than the Fire Slayers were.
Like, this was like new, like continuation, but new concept stuff.
It was that first slap in the face going, this is the world you're in now.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny, if you
go back, slap. It was a very good slap.
It was. I agree with that. If you go back talking about like funny slaps and continuation, one of our viewers, when the Daughters of Cain dropped, pointed out that in our first show of AOS, in that July 11th show that we did, or July 4th, July 11th, we talked about the continuation of the old world. And in that show, I did a called shot where I said Marathi is going to come back at the head of a bunch of witch elves.
Mm-hmm. You did make that call. I went back and verified it. He did
in our first show for AOS 1, and that actually happened this year. So, joy upon joys, it did.
But you got
thanks for my list.
You're welcome. Yeah. So we're now in the middle of April. Then we had another lull. We had the launch of 8th edition.
Yeah, a very important thing happens right after, not long after Kharadron Overlords, right? Which is
where everything goes to like non-model, non-rule product. Like, do you remember that? Like, we had a bunch of skulls and a bunch of like vines and a bunch of like Thunder and Blood starter like dropped, which was like the colored plastics, which by the way are discontinued now with the new stuff. So pick that stuff up if you still want it, because it's going away. And we had the launch of Skirmish in that time.
Yeah, it was mainly books, like toward like later in the year, which was like, what is Skirmish, it? September you had Blight War. September you had Firestorm, right?
Yep. Well, then we had the new General's Handbook. Like, after we got through, like, so after we got through 8th edition launch of 40K, like 3 months of just like dumb stuff, we got the General's Handbook 2017.
Yep.
Which rewired everything, which rewrote everything.
Yeah, right? Baby. Seriously.
I mean, like
I love GHB. I love GHB 2016 for what it did.
Yeah.
Yes. Still wait. I'm waiting on my replacement for it. It should be here. It should be here shortly. But like the GHB 17 was, I think, my single favorite product that they have made thus far. Okay, like if I had to pick a single product, it wouldn't be GHB 16. It would be GHB 17, because I feel like it grew on the previous idea in ways that reinvigorated so much stuff for me. The allegiance abilities and all of that was in there. The new battle plans I liked better that were in there. They felt like refined concepts, right? Like everything was the previous one, but more. And we learned from what we did, and we gave you so many new options. Like there were tons of forces I wanted to go back and look at and re-explore and could have fun with. Like I've run my Beastmen a couple times in like garage games. I mean, again, they're not tournament game, but that's fine. But like having those allegiance abilities and stuff, being able to run my Beastmen, I feel like I'm playing a real army. You know what I mean? Like, whereas oftentimes before that, I felt like, oh, everybody else gets a lot of these fun toys and I don't.
Yeah. Swift
what I mean?
agents are still waiting.
Yeah, well.
So let's not forget what else GHB 2017 did. Is it fulfilled the promise GW made the year before, saying this is going to be yearly, and
Right.
It was something new. We're still like, okay, yeah, that's great. We'll see it when we see it, and it is yearly. It is a promise. It is a ever evolving game, and it's great.
Yep, continued to adjust the points. Fire Slayer suddenly went badoom because their points went like to let's say much better place. So they suddenly started showing up a whole bunch and being competitive. So yeah, like a lot.
We got our first glimpse that something was off with Tomb Kings. Like if you
the compendiums.
Yeah, so if you'll remember with this round of compendiums, like with the first General's Handbook, we went to like pure compendium, like they didn't get updated. But with this round of compendiums, what was super interesting was while they weren't in the book, we also got a rewriting of a bunch of Tomb King scrolls.
Yep.
That removed all the summon spells from the death units. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And that was our first glimpse that something was coming down the pipeline. Like, it was a foreshadowing that we didn't understand. But at the time, it just looked like they were being a dick to Tomb Kings players. Like, that's what it looked like. Like, all of Death had a bunch of summons, but not Tomb Kings.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. Somebody asked in the comments if I made a big herdstone. No, that is a piece of terrain I actually own. I literally, legitimately on my table just have a big rock piece of terrain, like a piece of terrain that is just a big rock. So I just use that. I should make a special one. I should make a special cheaty one that's the legitimate full 4x4 edges.
Yeah,
like
blocks line of sight. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've always just used the rock terrain that I had existing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, and that's it. That's the story of the back half of 2017. Right?
Yeah, and
books,
ACON this
books
year
and
was
boxes.
like 110.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so we jumped from like 40 maybe to 110. I think
like
that's
that.
second year. Yeah.
Sounds about right. If we're misspeaking, I'm sorry, Alex, but we're going off memory on that, obviously.
Yeah.
So Firestorm created a Firestorm with its allegiance abilities. Oh, by the way, there was a very small allegiance change for Firestorm, Tom, that I don't know if you caught.
Like, are you talking about the painting one?
No. It's like Firestorm now. Like, it's perfectly
or the
playable
addition
now.
or the addition of Ironworld Arsenal to Tempest.
No, Dispossessed got added to Greywater Fast.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because they got added to something else as well, because they were in the Tempest box.
Sure.
But they weren't in the... Yeah, that's what it was. Dispossessed were in the Tempest box, but were not actually in the rule set.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool, because I've always liked Greywater Fastness, right?
That's the free guns. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the free guns, yeah. Okay. So.
Blight War... We got a taste of Nurgle,
That's
even though there was no book.
Nurgle. Yep.
Horticulus, and then soon after that we got Shadespire.
Yep.
Crept onto the scene.
Really, like when you look at it, the only like truly new product with like new models during the last half of the year was basically Shadespire, right? Which is sort of like, yeah, they were models. That was basically it, right? Yeah. Everything else was books. Was them doing book products.
Yep. And then we got Lord Celestin Gabriel Steelheart for Christmas.
Yeah, sure. Merry Christmas. What we've all waited for.
And everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, I mean,
like, do you remember that?
I do, yeah. I mean,
and they showed us at Christmas, didn't they show us the Malign Portents Harbingers at Christmas? Like, so before we broke, we got like that piece of community team, like all the community stuff was like forging on at this point, because that had launched the prior Christmas for the Zinch release.
Yeah, one of the things we should talk about is the general arc over this time period. We haven't really mentioned it because we focused on products, but the general arc over this time period was more and more and more and more content and interaction from the community team, right? Started building and building and building from like the advent calendar, and then, you know, the daily painting videos and bigger painting videos on the big models. And then, you know, up to where we are now, which is just like trailer videos and teasers and just podcasts,
web comics,
Hammer Hall, and everything. Yeah, just, you know, it's gone full bore now. So that has been an amazingly positive arc the entire time, with no sign of letting up anytime soon. The engagement from that whole team has been incredible.
Absolutely.
So, I know you want to talk about January. So when we get into January, right, what happens is we get Malign Portents, right? They're at the end of the year and into the next one. Yes, you're right. We get Malign Portents. Here is where we have a pretty major stumble on the road. There was one maybe community mistake.
There was a countdown timer that didn't end in anything.
They put up this countdown timer for Malign Portents. And it's like, everybody's watching. Like, what are we counting down to? What is happening? What's going to happen? What's the amazing thing?
And then it ends, and everyone's like, I don't know.
They're like a website, I guess, that kind of has some info on it. Now, you know, it's funny because now looking at the other side of it, Malign Portents has been, you know, really
we saw the new logo. Like, we saw the new logo, and you're like, this is big.
That's the immediate first thing I said. I was like, this is a really big deal. That logo, to me, was the biggest deal. Because it said we're changing everything. Again, for a company to change a logo of a flagship product is one of the biggest things you can do. That is like executive level approval, period. That rolls up to the top of the company when you change something like that. It's not a small thing.
And the one thing, though, on that website from the countdown that was amazing was we finally got our first glimpse of how the Cosmos works for the Mortal Realms.
Yes.
So they had all those great videos on there that were worth it. They were great.
They were hard to find. It wasn't even immediately obvious on the page when you went there.
Right. But when you found them, there was a lot of great information in them.
Yeah. That was one of the sort of stumbles, because seriously, people were just like, what were we waiting on? Like, we all thought that the buildup was going to be to some like announcement of a big release or a show of a model or something.
Trailer, yeah.
Something. Nope. And it's funny too, because in retrospect, like, I loved everything about Malign Portents. It moved the story forward in a great way. Tons of amazing short stories. I love the Herald models. I loved more or less everything that they ended up doing with it. Right.
Yep.
It just, boy, did they start on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a stumble at the beginning, but it all turned out well. You know, that's life. Sometimes we stumble a little at the beginning. All right. So, Tom, there is a spooky ghost hiding in your chair. Stop rotating. Okay. You have like Lady Oleander, the Mortark of Grief, in your chair there, apparently. She's banshee wailing at me.
Fantastic.
So now we roll into the current year. Everything's on full blast now. Boom! We turn that spigot back on. January, Maggotkin. February, Legions. Also February, we get the most important video in the history of all of Games Workshop.
That was the end of January.
Whenever it happened.
It was at LVO that the daughters video.
You're right. It was LVO. Yeah. So it was whenever LVO was. Thank you. Yes.
And then, and we also got the Glub video.
We got the
soon after we got the Glub video.
We got the most single important video in the history of, I don't know if this is going to come through or not, but yes, thinking about it more than anything.
So I want to back it up because
the Daughters of Cain video says you don't know what we're talking about.
You didn't see me holding my Marathi, but so before that, I was planning for my Adepticon army. I was gonna do Darkling Covens. It sounded like a fun time, and so I was gonna buy some Executioners off of good friend Domus. He's like, I got some Witch Elves too, and it was a plethora. He gave me a good deal. It's like, and then when I got them, I just realized I think I'll do a Daughters of Cain army for fun. And this was well before anything was announced. And I want to give like big props to Domus, because being a playtester and knowing what was coming and selling these to me and just quietly sitting in a corner. He told me at Adepticon he was so happy whenever I decided I was going to play Daughters. He's like, Chuck's going to be so happy. When that video dropped, man, I was just so freaking ecstatic. Like, I was just like, holy crap, the world's now revolving around me for the next week. I feel great.
Like, talk about stone-faced Domus. He's like,
man, that dude is made of granite, yo. That is impressive.
Got some, and you're like, sure, I'll buy some Daughters. And he had to be thinking inside, like,
like, what
I had so like all the stuff I was doing, so many people were looking like, man, Chuck must be a playtester. No, I'm not. I was just the luckiest war gamer in the world. Even my close friends are like, are you sure you're just not hiding this from us? I'm like, no, I'm not. It was so much fun. Just that hype.
Yes, that was it was a great trailer. Changed my life. I was in on that army. We did an emergency broadcast after LVO where we analyzed every second of the trailer because every second was gold. I don't know. This video has 153,000 views. I have a playlist that's just this video and the follow-up video, by the way, that I listened to while I was building and painting my army. That's 2 minutes. I would listen to it on repeat for hours while I was building and painting, just pointing that out. So you got to get
she will not be denied.
What's that?
You're saying 20,000 of those?
I am like a solid 1,000 of those views. Like, no joke. I'm a solid 1,000.
Marathi will not be denied. And that the chill you get from when she said that for the first couple times, first 100 or so. Yeah, it's real.
Amazing. Exactly. Okay. So yes, we get Magakin, we get Legions, we get Daughters, we get Deepkin.
And then they're like glub Fishman.
The glub video launches.
The puns begin.
Nico starts the Battletome Fishman group 8 seconds later. Right. Yep. And which eventually grows into the current I know Deepkin. And then obviously 2018, we don't need to review it too much, but it's been a truly amazing year, right? In everything. I'm not sure what else I would really ask for or want in this year leading up to this point. Like, and now it's yeah,
it's been cool. Like, this has been like one of those intense seasons of AOS.
It's one of those. By the way, just for people asking, I'll throw the link to the Mortal Realms data thing in the show notes. That way, people can look at this too if they want to see the releases. I mean, here's my summation here as we're getting on toward the 3-hour mark and probably want to wrap this up. But my summation was there were some stumbles along the way. This for the first 3 years were far from perfect. Far from it. The launch was something akin to a tire fire. Okay. I would say. That being said, to recover from it and to deliver mostly strength to strength, right? To keep building on good stuff, to keep making truly the best figures they've ever made. Some of the most fun armies I've ever seen and put on the table, and play experiences that I had never, like, I have had more fun playing as every month has gone by than I had in the previous month, generally. Okay. With some exceptions, but for the most part. To watch the tournaments grow, to watch more stuff and engagement happen from the community. It has been far from perfect, but it has been a lot more good than bad. And I couldn't be more excited for AOS 2 and everything I see in the future. Are there potential pitfalls coming here? Oh, yeah, man. Like, yep. You know, some of them might be named Nagash plus Umbral Spell Portal. Like, that's entirely possible. There can be There could be
it's gonna
some.
be so glorious. It's
Yeah, I
gonna
mean-
be so.
I'm not saying that the road has been completely free of speed bumps. What I'm saying is that on the whole, the trajectory has been up, and I expect that to continue. And I'm willing to put up with the few speed bumps because in the end, we're constantly building and growing the community, the people, the scene, the producers of content, and just all of the world, the armies, the story, the narrative, the everything. And that's why I remain excited. So I never lose sight of the forest for the trees, right? Would be my argument. Like some of these individual trees have been a little wilted and stunted and broken, but the forest is healthy. Chuck,
Right.
what do you think? What are your
man.
thoughts here on the eve of the end of AOS 1 and the beginning of AOS 2?
It has been such a fun journey from being alone and isolated, being the only person that gave a damn in my local area, having all the armies to try and play and no one wanting to play, to now where so many people want to play. We've grown as a community even stronger. Games Workshop has grown. More importantly, the GW and the community have grown together. And there's just more and more, and the positivity is outweighing the negativity. Sure, there's issues. There's base gate like we have today, but that's going to pass. It's going to be okay. We're playing a game. We're having fun. But just experiencing this journey from the beginning and knowing that it's not done. There's so much more to go, and plenty more adventures for us all to have together. It's just super exciting. I'm on a very positive high note going into 2.
I agree. Tom, final thoughts?
We're in a good spot.
Yeah. Not every army that Tom
really-
likes to run has come out perfect, but on the whole, I
mean-
think it's still more good than bad. Sorry.
I mean, I'm building daughters in their top tier, so like, I mean, yeah, it's
Everybody here has a daughter's army. Everybody in the chat.
yeah,
Yes.
No,
because they're really good.
Obviously, I
Yep.
don't even care. Look, you know how many
I mean,
witch elves I have?
It's a house payment, but it's really good.
Sure. You know how many witch elves I own?
0, I know.
Hot
Use 0.
Not enough.
goose egg, son. That's right.
Not enough.
But I got lots of snakes, baby. I got all them snakes, and I love my army. I love it. Like it's, I'll come back to it in a couple months and add even more to it. But it's fantastic. So, yeah. The funny comment that based on the history video, we're in the second chapter. AOS 3 will be the pinnacle, and AOS 4 will burn everything down, and we'll have to start over again. History repeats itself. Everything in Warhammer is basically in sort of threes. These sort
So
of
which
three
one of us-
cycles.
No,
Which one of us is burning our army at the end of that?
Sure. I
I
can't
don't
wait.
know.
For that.
I should add some extra ones. So
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll see. That's many years off. So we'll see how it all runs out.
At least 6 years.
Probably like the shortest run was 8 years. Yeah, the shortest run of that was 8 years.
Well, right. We're 3 years in. In 6 years, it'll be at 9 years, which is the average.
Yeah, run the first was 9 years. Run the second was 8 years. Run the third was basically 15. It was a long one. So there you go. Okay. So that's it. There we go. Chuck, hey, buddy. Appreciate having you on. As I said, Chuck, why don't you spruik Nova a little here at the end, man? I'd like you to talk about it a little more because you still got, is there still space? Can people still sign up or are you full completely?
There's 9 team tickets left for the doubles, and there's 19 left for the grand tournaments. It's going to be August 30th through September 2nd is the Nova Open event. So sign up. I haven't released the pack yet. Obviously, I can't until the rules drop on Saturday, and you'll probably see it shortly thereafter. So it's very likely that those tickets are going to get bought up as soon as that pack drops and everyone sees it and knows exactly what they're going to be diving into. So if you have interest and are going to be in the Northern Virginia, DC area, love to have you.
Go. If you can in any way get to Nova, go to Nova. It is an awesome convention. It is a beautiful location. It's fantastic. Everything there is for charity. It donates to a really wonderful set of charity, including all the cheap booze that they sell at night, which all goes to charity. You too can get drunk to cure cancer. So I don't like. There's really not many better ways to spend your time. They have a wonderful charity raffle where a bunch of great miniature painters paint and contribute stuff that they then auction off, and all that money goes to charity. There's painting classes from some of the best people in the world.
Like Vince?
Do you
have any room left in your classes?
do not count myself among that.
But do you have any room in your classes?
No, they're all sold out.
There
But there are many people who are better than me, certainly there teaching. And you would be well done to take a class with any of them. So it is a truly great convention. So if you can make it, check it out, go there. And Chuck's gonna be running an awesome event. I have no concerns whatsoever. So to everybody out there, I hope you had a good time with.
Hold on.
Go.
This weekend is the AOS Open.
This weekend is the AOS Open Day. Yes, I don't know if they're doing a releasey thing for this. Like, are they doing another spoiler thing? I don't know.
So Vince and I may have a surprise report.
Yeah,
suddenly there's a huge launch, something big.
If we get it, we'll emergency broadcast it as always. But yeah, I don't know that they've announced it, that there is going to be a thing. So yes,
I mean, it is kind of the launch of second edition. Like,
I feel like it would almost undercut it if they announced some next thing, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way around.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something big, we may have to just send Vince in an overnight flight to Warhammer World.
And hop on a red eye. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yes. But at any rate, anything else? Am I okay, Tom? Or did I forget anything?
Nope, I think it's it.
Okay. Very good. So with that, I hope you all had a fun AOS 1. We bid you good night, AOS 1. Welcome to AOS 2. AOS 1 is dead. Long live AOS. So with that, we'll say goodbye. Thanks, Chuck. Always a pleasure having you on, sir. And to all of you, thanks for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday.